All right, guys. Tonight I got to talk to the awesome and talented Rick McCoy out of Texas Tech University. Rick's a phenomenal artist who now specializes in using recycled and waste materials, waste in air quotes here for sure. I'm happy to say this was our longest episode yet, and we still barely scratched the surface on most of the stuff we were talking about and most of these topics. But Rick will definitely be back again, so we'll take care of that problem. We talked about things ranging from the art industry and the consumer industry to what materialism is to the education of artists, the science of plastics, and of course, what's most important, personal growth. If you're tuning in on the audio, make sure to give the YouTube a view too, because there is a lot of unbelievable art to see. This was a wild one. Enjoy, guys.
I started out school with Greg at University of Kansas,
Mm-hmm.
and was actually going to be an architect. But really long story short, really bad counseling is what I can contribute to. And I didn't end up actually making it into the program. But through it, I learned a lot of things and found myself in ways I didn't realize it yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like my extreme addiction to Asian or Eastern art.
Yeah,
Um, so I have a very strong
definitely
tie to
relate
that,
there.
and also their culture and the way that they view the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot different than here in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up like Greg did in a very small town, you're kind of cut off from society in a lot of ways, and you don't have those influences. Like something, let's say something simple like, well, it's not really simple. It's also pretty shitty, but like racism.
Yeah,
I didn't have that where I grew up,
yeah.
so I didn't really know about it until I went to a bigger city,
It's
right?
funny that Kansas is literally the stereotypical one too, with yeah, with
Yeah.
Allison. Wait, which one is it? As what's the movie where it's like we're not in Kansas anymore? How am I
Oh,
spacing
good
on that?
Lord. Yes. Wizard of Oz.
Yes, Wizard of Oz. Yeah, yeah. That's like this atypical, or like archetypical place in the U.S. that's sheltered from all of that.
Yeah. And well, see, okay, so that
Well,
movie was actually mostly filmed in California. But anyways, um,
oh yeah.
but yes, so in that sense, I feel like I was very much uh, not shown a lot of things.
Hmm.
So being introduced to Eastern thought, Eastern views, Eastern art, um, it fascinated me because it much more of like who I am and how I was brought up in my family, where
Hmm.
family is very important. Um, Respect for your elders, these different, what do you want to say, ways of doing things, like I lost the word, but something that's gone beyond
Hmm.
time and they've been doing it for so long
Oh yeah.
that it's ingrained in them. Those sort of things are really important to me. And I feel like in the West, a lot of that stuff is being lost.
Hmm.
And we don't see a lot of it being talked about, even in popular culture or in movies. Like if they do talk about it, it is usually other cultures that are doing it. So,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, I guess that's kind of true. I never really thought about that in terms of. So my family is from Bulgaria. So
ah,
we have like, I came here when I was 5, with no accent because I came so young, which I was always pissed about. No, um,
I love their accent
probably a
too.
good thing. It's probably a good thing. But yeah, I always
No,
wanted to
it's
have the
not.
accent.
Ladies love
Yeah,
it.
that's part of it. Yeah, no. But yeah, that's one of the ways me and Greg, for any listeners too, Greg was actually podcast number 1 for
Oh,
the
nice.
series. We kicked it off that way. But
Yeah.
me and him, when we first met, kind of bonded over that because he, in the same way that you were drawn to Eastern cultures and like the more Asian side, he was drawn to like the Slavic side, which is like my
Right.
culture.
Yes.
So it was cool getting to bond with him over that. But yeah, about like the values, that's something I think about kind of a lot recently. Actually, I started listening to my like new favorite podcast is, have you heard of Lex Friedman's podcast?
Yeah.
He's an AI researcher guy. He always talked about the fact he brings up that he's Russian way too much. My whole life I've dealt with that with being Bulgarian way too much. But I very much relate to him, and having listened to his for a while now, that's something he doesn't really touch on it, but it just made me think about. It seems like there's like a weird point because like America's obviously relatively young compared to so many countries and like um, nationalities. Uh, it's like there's like a point just in terms of like the pop culture where their values and stuff has been allowed has existed for so long you can't even get it out. You know, like people are always bringing it up, like this is like the classic, but it's like sometimes it's like the U.S. wasn't like old enough to like reach that point where they're always there.
Mm.
At least that's what you said made me think about. Like I guess there is like less of it brought up in like pop culture compared to other pop cultures. I don't know other pop cultures too
Well,
much, but
the other side of that, and the problem that we're facing is due to the fact that we have came into it at the time that we did, and then in such a short amount of time advanced as fast as we did,
yeah, like
especially with industry and all of that, and then going straight from industry then straight into technology. And it's grown and expanded so fast that we didn't have a way of really setting those traditions
Mhm.
like many other cultures have. So
Yeah, it's like the tradition is growth, which makes it yeah, which
yeah,
just makes it
yeah. But
difficult. Yeah.
then on top of all of that, then you also add in the fact that it is such a melting pot, and
Yeah.
you have
Yeah.
so many other cultures and traditions that are
Exactly.
coming in. It's there. I don't see an American culture, like I never
Yeah.
have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
And not in a bad way. Yeah, it's like
right,
I was viewed in the way like that. I obviously being an immigrant like myself, I love the melting pot aspect. I never understood when
yes,
people didn't get that it's a melting pot. You know,
right,
you didn't
and the
turn
fact
that.
that there's still racism is beyond me. Like it's so
Yeah,
stupid. It's pointless. But
yeah.
anyways, okay. So we diverged. All right. So yeah. So college at KU, and after not making it into the architecture program for many reasons, I found I still wanted to do something that had to do with creating a house into a home,
Mm-hmm.
because I did come from a broken family,
Mm-hmm.
and so I kind of started looking into like interior design. So another thing that you'll see that me and Greg have a lot in common is the fact that we're extremely organized.
Oh
His
yeah,
is a little more chaotic, but it's still there.
yeah.
Okay,
He
and
does have his
mine is,
systems. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Mine's a little bit more OCD than his,
Mm-hmm.
in different ways. Like I'm very much a list maker and all kinds of stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of see that being applied within architecture
Mm-hmm.
and being able to create those kinds of structures and that sort of thing. So not making it into it, I ended up going into or trying to get into interior design because it was still creative. It still had that aspect to it. And in doing that, I had to take the prereq classes to get into the art program, period, to be able
Mm-hmm.
to do it. So getting into that and then really starting to see who I was as a creative, and
Mm-hmm.
that's really where I belong in making and designing things.
Mm-hmm.
That time I ended up taking my first sculpture class with Matthew Burke at KU.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he phenomenal teacher, and it really made me feel comfortable and allowed me to approach it in a sense that I'm a little different than a lot of artists, where I don't hesitate. I don't, like, I'm very much into materiality,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't hesitate in using it.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are scared to use certain materials because they might be a little more difficult to understand,
Mm-hmm.
but I love diving into materials in the sense that I want to see how they act and react.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a very innate ability with my hands to get in and make with it
Mm-hmm.
and just see how, wood versus metal versus stone, which are the classics. I have a very good understanding of how they are going to act and react to being cut, being hammered, being
Mm-hmm.
drilled, just those sort of things. So I don't have that hesitancy. And in that class, it really allowed me to understand that I have that ability and that I can just get in there and just make,
Yeah.
just make.
That's so
And
cool. Yeah.
yeah, and I love it. And that's when I started to realize, oh shit, I'm an artist. I am through
Yeah.
and through. That is who I am.
Yeah.
I have to make or I'm not happy. Right.
Mhm.
So learning that, I also went through a really deep depression, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. So
Probably
I
good to,
bring
yeah.
it
Honestly,
whenever I can.
I'm on that side too. I like,
Yeah,
I hate
yeah,
that anybody in the world has any kind of stigma against, like self-growth, therapy, like all that. So I'm 100% aboard.
right.
Yeah.
So the problem is the fact that our parents' age and
Mhm.
beyond didn't talk about those things,
Yeah. Yeah.
and very few were open to
Mhm.
talking about it, and that's what I love about the Big Bang Theory and
Yeah.
young Sheldon and seeing his
Mhm.
mom talking to him. I'm like, I
Yeah.
love this woman, but you know, not a lot of parents were like that.
Mhm.
So my parents were not, for sure.
Mhm.
But once my mother actually saw that I had it, she knew it, and that's when things opened up and we started talking about it more.
Mhm.
But going through that, I ended up quitting school. So I
Mhm.
didn't end up getting a degree from KU, even though I had damn near enough actual credits to get a degree. So
Mhm.
technically honorary, I have a degree from KU. I left there
I
with
feel, yeah,
like
mine took,
112 hours.
mhm.
So I think the only thing I didn't have was a foreign language. So
Oh
I
yeah.
probably could have a general ed technically.
That was the last class I took too.
Right. So I don't have any foreign language, which I wish I did. Um, my mind doesn't work that way. I guess
Mhm.
I forget the words if I don't use them.
Yeah, I feel like by far, I mean, everyone says it too, but like by far the best, I only want to do it like deep end, like where you get thrown into the deep end. I just like
Yeah,
throw me in like
that would
Shanghai for like 4 months, throw me in
right.
Spain.
That would probably be the only way I would be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because like as an artist and the way I look at things, I feel like breaking down languages and being able to hear it and speak it, no problem. But
Mhm.
remembering all, the way that culture thinks when it comes to
Yeah.
language, and maybe seeing those connections, I don't have that.
Yeah.
So
I'm bad at the structuring myself in terms like I have a couple
yeah,
of friends that are phenomenal at languages. They just like even when I'm just teaching a few sentences in Bulgarian, one of them in particular, he lives in Spain now, but he's like, oh, so this is how like your grammar works like this and this. And
yeah,
like and I don't know, like I was raised with English and Bulgarian, so I was raised like in America predominantly. So I learned the grammar here for English, but I don't know any Bulgarian grammar. It's just like intuitive. I know how to speak, but
right,
I don't know anything that's happening.
exactly.
So
It's
when he
weird,
says
right?
that, I'm like, I don't know. I'll check. I'll call my mom. She's like, yep, that's how it works. I'm like, okay, well, you know more about Bulgarian grammar than me, Adam. Uh,
Yep.
but yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't come naturally to me either. I have the huge desire to learn them. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say I'm horrible, but the structure and the grammar part's definitely where my weakness lies with that.
Right.
Yeah, continue. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. From there, I ended up just working for a little while, hanging out with Greg more. And that's about the time he went into law school and all that fun stuff. So
Mhm.
he kind of became more distant and all that. I don't want to bring his whole life into it, but
Where was that then? Where were you guys
at
both at
KU.
that point? Oh, okay,
He,
okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. He continued there. Uh, and then a couple years later, after quitting, yeah, that's when my mom got married and moved to Dallas, and
Uh-huh.
that's when I decided to go to Texas,
Mhm.
and really push myself out of my comfort zone and travel and move
Yeah.
somewhere new and try a new. Um, and I was very liked at this. I was at Hobby Lobby at that time.
Uh-huh.
Love that name. But the manager Ollie ended up being because I went from a small town and then finished high school at Lawrence Free State High School, which is where I
Mhm.
met Greg the very first. So
Mhm.
we met at that high school, and it was new to us both. it was a much larger high school. So
Mhm.
Ollie was actually the father of a couple of the twins from the school I went to.
Oh, okay.
So Ali Aganoa, I love that man. He's like a second father to me. Like he's
Yeah,
just that big of a mentor, you know. I
that's
still
awesome.
keep in touch with him
Mhm.
to this day. And so he ended up, giving me good references and things of that nature. And I wanted to get into like maybe management or something, just trying to
Mhm.
figure life out. I was
Yeah,
totally confused at
at least get
time.
something you can build on,
Right,
yeah.
right. And that's all I ever wanted. Like I'm the type of guy that, I've had a job since I was 14 years old,
Mhm.
I'm much into that much older way of looking at
Mhm.
jobs. It's like you get there and you work at it, you grow,
Mhm.
and you stay with the company. And that's
Mhm.
never happened for me, which is really weird. But in doing so, I spent a good maybe 3 years or so bouncing from job to job,
Mhm.
trying to find something that I could do that very thing with, and
Yeah,
just didn't have any luck
yeah.
in Dallas. No problem finding jobs
Just
because I
somebody
could
you wanted to
see.
do that with.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know. There was at one point where I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this. This isn't working. I need to go back to school. I need
Mhm.
to finish. What
Mhm.
I started because I always felt bad in my own mind that I didn't finish. Right.
Mhm.
That's when I decided to go back to school and found University of North Texas in
Mhm.
Denton, which is real close to where I was living. And I was going to start, and I had enrolled. And that summer, I heard from an old friend from the high school that I had finished at, who had gone to, he taught himself Chinese and moved to China, and he taught English in
In
China.
China, that's awesome.
And I'm just like, yes, I want to do that. So I went to China. Uh, it went bad. The school lied about a lot of things. They were going to cover all my expenses, and they didn't. And that freaked me out. And then being away from home, and D ended up, he taught in Songyuan, which is up north, closer
Mhm.
to North Korea, and so he was a couple of hours away from where I was,
Oh,
and
okay, so you weren't even in the same city as him. Okay.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
he had an apartment there, but he would go up there to work because he had his own. Well, he eventually had his own school through the girl that he taught was the daughter of like a governor or a mayor or
That's awesome.
something higher up in Songyuan, and so they ended up building a school for him, but they found out he was gay and they took it away. Yeah, you got to love China,
That
but
sucks. Yeah,
yes, very much so. But
very much.
in that same sense, like I got there and they said, okay, we're going to have a curriculum for you to follow. That's in my freaking thing that I signed.
Mhm.
That that's what I was to follow. Got there,
Yeah.
there was none. So I'm like, dude, I haven't been around children since I was forever ago. Like I don't remember any kid stories or
Yeah.
rhymes or any of that stuff. So like trying to come up with a curriculum, I'm like, fuck, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I ended up was like freaking out. And Jinlei was my landlord, and he's like, dude, I see what's going on. I'm
Mhm.
really sorry. He's like, give me, like 1.5 month rent, and I'll get you a ticket and I'll help you get the hell out of here. And I'm just like, oh,
Mhm.
dude, I love you. You're awesome.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome, at least,
yeah,
yeah.
it would have been awesome, but I ended up only spending like 2 weeks there, and I
Yeah.
was so sad because I wanted to travel. I wanted to see
Yeah.
the art that I was telling you about earlier,
Yeah.
and like the Forbidden City in Beijing, and what really pissed me off is I stayed in the Hyatt, which is literally across the street from the damn place, and I didn't
Oh,
go see it.
really? Damn.
Ah,
Yeah, that
so
sucks.
I was sad,
Well, there's
but
still plenty of time, but yeah, now it's got you even more craving it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But going all the way through KU, and all my friends, like Bulgarian, speaking of which, I met a whole group of them that had come
Really?
just to work for a little while when I was in Dallas. And I worked with them for the summer when we did like the building of Dillard's. And oh my God, those guys were so freaking funny. They're
That's
so
awesome.
fun. They were nuts. So, but yeah, small world, right? Um, so in doing that, I ended up coming back And I was like, you know what, I really need to go back to school. I really need to finish. Like I need to do this for myself. And so that's when I decided to go back and finish art school at UNT. The greatest part about this was the fact that I had all my prereq classes out of the way, and I could focus all on art.
Yeah, you could at least come back and do the fun stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And I powered through, dude. I made so much work. Like if I were to show you, I have 2 websites, and one of them is what I decided to make when I came back to grad school, which is where I'm at now. I wanted to have a place because I had people wanting to commission me to do stuff, but I didn't have that type of work on my website with what I had done in my undergrad, right? So I do a lot of stuff that you can construe as like arts and crafts, not just fine art. And then I also do other things like I had a doctor have me make wooden, like made out of walnut, just little handheld things to put your hand on for his chair, for his examination chair at his eye doctor business, because the ones that had the padding on it had ripped through and they would scratch themselves. So, you know, I do all kinds of different things.
That's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
But I didn't have a platform to show people. I just had it on my computer. So I decided to make another website. And so you can see a lot of that other stuff. And then I took all my undergrad work and I put it on there as well. So now I have a visual, like an
actual like lookbook gallery, like.
Yes.
Yeah.
So people could still see all the stuff that I've done, not just what my current work is, which is the way the art world seems to be, you know, mostly made up, is they want you to only show your current work.
Yeah.
So, but while I was at UNT, man, I was able to really dive in and do what I've really wanted to do while I was at the end of my career at KU, and to, like I said, materiality, to really just go in at it, you know, balls deep, you know? Like,
that's the way to do it. Yeah. I bet it was freaking refreshing. Yeah. Getting to get back to it and really just like, you're like, wait, now I just get to focus on just this. It's like, that's
exactly.
a good, yeah.
And I made a huge portfolio. Like I made so much work.
Is the sculptor Rick McCoy website, is that your main one? I stumbled upon that one. Okay. Okay. So that's the main one. I'll put that in the show notes too for everybody.
Yeah. So I'll go into that a little bit later, but that is all just grad work.
Okay.
And we'll get to that and you'll see what I'm doing. But I took my love of Asian art and married that with my new abilities and research into materiality.
Yeah.
And found one of my favorite things that I've grown to love in Asian art, and it's not just not just Chinese, but it's also in Korea and it's also in Japan, and that is calligraphic painting.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's very almost like they're writing, so each stroke means something, and there's different styles to doing that as well. And I loved how in-depth that was, but how simplistic it was at the same time. It's beautiful to me, that juxtaposition that a lot of people
honestly,
don't
that's probably the biggest, because it seems like if you can limit it to saying it's the alphabet, you know, or like I guess they have like limited characters, but like just like the way you can like literally make the swoosh of a line.
Right.
There's so much to there's so much to master in something that seems limited.
And where you put the pressure and where you lift up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
How they're alpha. Well, actually, Korea is the only one in the Asian continent or area, however you want to say it, the demographic that has an actual alphabet.
It's not it's not like characters.
Yeah. So anyways, so I took that concept and I married that with wanting to make that into 3D. So if you look at my other website is called myothercreations.com. So real simple, but it's like all my other stuff, right?
Yeah.
You'll see my woodworking, and that's what I did was I took that calligraphic painting, that style, and then thought about that as gestural and making it into 3D in wood, and then put that onto the wall.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So it was something nobody else was doing. and it didn't really take off. I feel like I didn't quite find my audience because it was such large pieces. Like one
Yeah.
of them is of birds,
Oh,
and
okay.
it's like a 12-foot wingspan.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Here, hold on one second.
Yeah, I'm
So
excited we can do fashion show and tell in here. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. Okay, so in order so I don't have to share my screen and we can just do it real simply, I have my book that I made from my senior year that has all my undergrad work in it.
Uh-huh.
So here's if you can see that.
Oh, I can see. Yeah. Yeah, they really do
That,
remind me of like calligraphic swooshes. Like
right? And if you look right here,
yeah,
okay, that is this piece right there. Okay.
close
But
up. Yeah.
you can see the wood grain, right?
Yeah.
So I make my own stains and then still be able to see the wood grain.
That's
And
really awesome. Yeah.
that tied in for me to use that particular type of wood, which is pine, which really surprised my professor on how smooth I was able to get pine.
Uh-huh.
But it is very figurative, is what they call it in the woodworking world. And that's what I wanted because you're tying that into the calligraphic
I would say yeah, it
painting
literally looks like
line.
liquid like. You know, like the
Yes.
way that like so it looks like the
Whoa.
3D version of a swoosh. That's awesome.
Okay. Okay. So now that you say that, that
It's
makes
way
me think.
more yeah, it's way more calligraphic than I thought wood could get when I was just trying to imagine it.
So I did a big koi,
Oh yeah, okay, that's awesome.
and it's 5 foot by 6 foot. But the way it's made, it actually looks like it's underwater
Uh-huh.
because of that nature that you're
All
talking
the
about.
pieces of wood look so water-like. It's freaky. Like it looks like
Yeah,
someone like dropped like droplets of water to make that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
you can check that out in my undergrad stuff. But in that, I also learned like jewelry making. So using gold and silver and copper. I surprised the hell out of my professor the very first semester by going big on a bronze piece
Mhm.
because it's something I had never done. And he's like, "You sure you want to do that?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm going all in
I
on this."
like
Like,
all in. Yeah.
yeah. So I was in there just sweating away, working on this thing for hours on end, and it really impressed him on how much time I was willing to put in on it. Um, let's see, where is it? I got a few of my undergrad pieces here.
Uh-huh. Is this just like your workshop or
Oh crap! I can't get to it. Here it is. So this piece I did outside of class
that's the
on my own.
bronze?
No, this is copper. The bronze
okay.
piece, my mom bought that piece, and,
Oh,
and
okay.
she loved it so much. This piece I did in the dorm,
Uh-huh.
and really impressed a lot of the other people because none of the other people were in art. It was
Mhm.
more of a sports dorm, so
Yeah.
they were always interested to watch me do this. So it's all hand cut out with what they call a jeweler's saw, which the blades are about the width of your fingernail. So
Yeah.
it's real small,
It's like
and
a
it takes
tiny
a lot
little
of
saw.
time. Yeah. Well, no, it's the blades are like this long, but they're
Oh,
real
okay.
thin, and
Oh,
then it
okay.
has like
Okay.
a U-shaped frame to hold it. Right.
Yeah.
You see, you can barely see it because there's nothing behind it.
Yeah.
But
That's all. So what is it?
it's a
It look,
dragon.
oh, okay. I was like,
It's,
it looked kind of like a prawn at first, like a big, like a, because like the shrimp shape.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
But
awesome.
it's a dragon. East Asian culture stuff. But
Yeah.
that took me 180 hours outside of class.
I was gonna say, yeah, cutting that guy out would be wild.
Yeah. So now you can kind of see where I'm at. Like I'm very much into learning the different materials and just going for it and not being
Yeah.
afraid of failure. And in doing that, it's allowed me to really get a good breadth of how to approach different materials, how to
Mhm.
make with them.
Plus, just the most important factor, like you said, you're not afraid of new materials.
Right,
Just like any kind of comfort zone thing, the habit you built is just diving into any material. So like
right,
there's no material that's gonna give you like that kind of buffer. It's not like you're used
right,
to a single one or working hard in general. You're used to trying new ones. So that's the
right.
habit. That's awesome.
Exactly. Yes. Which would why I'm telling you all this is because I'm going to lead that into what I'm doing
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, the
So,
synthetic work.
so I ended up doing pretty good. I graduated there, and then after I graduated there, I worked trying to find jobs. I exhibited where I could. That's one of the things that is missing in the art world is they don't teach you a lot of things about what the
Like,
art world's actually like when you get
yeah,
out of school. So they didn't really prepare me for what it's like to try to get into shows or to try to get gallery representation or any of those sort of things. In what the way they call it here is professional practices.
mhm.
They teach you a little bit, but it's just very bare minimum. So one
Yeah,
of the things I hope
that's
to
half the
do through,
career. That's something I've been seeing too with, I mean, some of my like direct, like closest friends, one of my best friends right now, it's one of my roommates, along with just like other like artists I know. But that's the example I kept using when we were talking is it's like an author. It's like an author's written a book, and but you weren't really taught how to sell the book. So you try selling the book for like a little bit, and obviously your comfort zone is actually creating things. So after a bit of that not working, you're like, well, maybe it's like a little bit behind. Maybe I need to create something new. So you just keep going like through that cycle, but you gotta
right.
like someone needs to either teach you or you just need to power through the side of
Well,
getting the audience selling the thing, and then you create a new thing.
right.
Yeah,
But
it seems like that's
it's the
missing.
fact that they're not teaching the
Yeah,
fact that this is business.
yeah, exactly. Like they had to
Just
teach.
that in itself.
Yeah, that like the fact that that's not literally half the focus is insane. Like because if it's
Yeah,
not half the focus, you're not going to be able to like live your life as an artist. You're not going to be able to do this for your life, like to
exactly.
earn. Yeah.
Yes. That's the problem with, well, in my view, uh, universities, period.
hmm Oh yeah, I'm on the
They,
business side. I'm a full believer of you got to do it to learn it. There's some good things, yeah, they can teach you for sure. There's case studies, there's
right.
things, but you got to just do stuff. Like if somebody wants to do a business, if someone wants to be an entrepreneur, if there is a curriculum to be good for that, they should just do like a forced co-op. Like work
Yeah.
with this company,
There
lead
you
a
go.
team. That's half your
Yeah.
semester, then learn some more stuff. Do that again. Like that's the only way I
But
would ever structure that.
it's like the experiences that I get and have had from the college has been, you know, well worth the amount of money I'm in debt now.
hmm
But I feel like there's a lot that I didn't need to go through, and I look at it and compare it to like a technical school
hmm
and see how much better those things are set up because they really get you the things that you do need to know. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things that I'm wanting to approach when I get out of here
hmm
is to try and create a new space for art to exist in.
hmm
This may be something else we may talk about at another point,
For
but it's
sure. Yeah.
business that I'm wanting to start. And in that, I want to start because here we have the innovation hub here on campus, and
Mhm.
they help people start businesses or compete to see if their ideas are good and that sort of thing. And I went in with this idea, but there's so many layers to it. They're like, what is your lowest hanging fruit? And that was it, was teaching the professional practices
Yeah.
and finding out by interviewing people clear in Dallas and other places that are in the professional side of art world. They're
Mhm.
like, yes, this is something that's missing. We
Mhm.
need something like this.
Mhm.
So that's kind of next level of where I hope to hit.
Yeah.
But um, so now I worked for maybe 5 years in Dallas. After graduation, things didn't work out. Uh, Ran out of savings and had to
Mhm.
move home. So I
Like
moved
work
back.
as an artist there, like you just had a place and you just kept making art. Okay. Okay.
Well, okay. So when I was in Dallas after I graduated, that's the second biggest thing that artists face
Mhm.
is space to work out
Mhm.
of. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you go large scale, it's really
It's gonna be
difficult.
way harder for you. Yeah. My roommate's like a fashion designer. It's hard enough for him. Like he gets a
Yes,
big room in our house, and it's like fully
full.
super full, and like he makes
Uh,
it work. But
uh,
yeah, if you're making sculpture,
yeah,
I don't
tell
even know
me
how.
like this is a huge room
You need like at
and
least a garage to be a
it's
sculptor.
full. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
completely full. Like
Yeah.
it's unreal. So I worked out of, so I had an apartment and then I made sure the apartment had like a garage space that you can rent. So I had to pay extra for it, but then at least I had a place to put all my tools and work out of, even though it was like this big, you know? So then I moved home, in art where I lived is not real big, and people aren't really willing to spend that kind of money on that sort of thing. You know, you're living where a bunch of farmers live. You know, they don't get it. It's a different world to them.
Yeah.
And then the kind of serendipity hit. It was kind of weird. I heard from Matthew Burke, who I told you about earlier, my Sculpture 1 professor.
Yeah.
I had talked to him just kind of off and on, not real far in depth. We never have gotten real close, but we still stay in touch. And he contacted me and said they're doing some kind of display type of thing where they're going to do an iron pour. They're going to do some guy that does stone carving, and a guy that had like a big sawmill, showing people how that's done and how they get lumber. And it was in a new space on campus that is for 3D art and stuff, which is a little off campus, but it's still part of it. But so I go, and he's, you know, we talk, we have a good time. Then he said there's supposed to be a big group of people, and this is crazy, but they were supposed to be there, and so they're waiting to do some things until they ing there, and they were way late. Come to find out, that group was actually at the International Sculpture thing that they have every year. It was happened to be in Kansas City, so they were running late from that. And so they finally show up, and you know, they're about done with the iron pour, and I'm watching, and I look over my shoulder and I see somebody that I think I recognize. Like, there's no way, because this person was a graduate student at UNT while I was an undergrad, and he lives in El Paso, so way out there. You know, that's further west Texas than I am. Like, it's way out here. And I'm like, oh, there's no way this is Angel. I turn around, and he's eating a taco right next to me. I'm like, son of a bitch, it is Angel. I couldn't believe it. Of
course.
And so we got to talking, and I'm like, dude, let me ask you something. Is grad school really worth it? And why? And he goes, dude, you have no idea. Yes. And I said, okay, why? He said, in networking alone, it's worth it. But on top of that, you learn more about who you are as a person and who you are as an artist. And I'm like, dude, sign me up.
Yeah.
Like, that was enough
That's
for
awesome.
me.
I like how straightforward his answer is. Yeah, I've never thought about what grad school for like art would be.
Right.
Yeah.
So that surprised me. Like that, like I hadn't thought of it in that sense. And I'm like, okay, I think I need to get back to the art world, because I was getting further and further away the longer I was out of from undergrad. And he goes, well, you need to check out Texas Tech. I'm like, what? Where? Like, you know, like, who? And he said, yeah, I just met with Cody Arnall and Will Cannings, who are the two head professors in sculpture. And because they had met at an international sculpture place they were just at. And I'm just like, wait, what? So how all this ties, like, you know, rhizome, like I said a minute ago, everything's connected, you know?
That's the other cool thing about the podcast thing, man. It's freaking me out. Like, again, this is 7 episodes deep. The amount of like amazing people I've gotten to talk to, and just people already headed me towards. I feel like I'm like years ahead of where I was in terms of knowing people that can teach me the things I want to know to create what I need to know to create what I want to create. I feel like I already basically know, like I'm like halfway or way further than I would have thought. Like I need to be at least at episode like 100 to feel like I kind of know people that are in these areas. After that episode like 3, I was like, damn, this is the coolest thing that you can do this nowadays. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah, networks are insane. Yeah,
the way it grows is exponential, and I love it.
Super exponential.
So that in mind, I was like, okay, I gotta go check this place out, because I didn't even know that they had a sculpture program here. Okay. I would not have chose this place if I had not actually spent the time to drive the 9 hours out here and check it out.
Yeah.
because this facility is a multi-million-dollar facility, and it has everything you could ever want to be in sculpture and just play with stuff.
So this is
And
part of the campus, right where you're at? This is like
yeah,
you have like
this building, it's
okay,
called the 3D Annex, and
awesome.
it is above and beyond any school I have ever been to in what they have available. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And so I saw it and I'm like, I gotta go. There's no way I could go anywhere else.
Candy shop for you.
Because
That's awesome.
I had applied to 6 other places, and one of the places I also was accepted to was obviously KU. And I feel bad because Matt went to bat for me, and I didn't end up choosing them. But there's a lot of
No,
reasons
but I
why.
bet he obviously understands you got to go the best place for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially.
So yeah, he still keeps in contact with me. And
Yeah.
the craziest thing was, first year here,
Mm-hmm.
he quit and resigned from KU and moved out east.
Really?
So if I had gone there, then the whole reason I had gone there.
He goes to Texas Tech now. Like he teaches there.
No, he's out east. He
Oh,
went
okay, but he just left there. Okay.
Pennsylvania or Massachusetts or something like that. I can't remember.
I got
Yeah.
you.
So the one reason I would have chosen there would have left, and I would have been
so
hired.
that's good.
So I made the right choice just in that alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's best for you? Yeah.
So coming here has been, I'm gonna say, the greatest thing that has ever happened to me.
Perfect.
Already.
I love it.
The way that they teach is gonna affect the way I make for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many things that my undergrad failed to teach me that they are miles above any program I have ever known. Like they really teach you how to approach art, not just how to understand it and how to make it, right? So undergrad's more about technique and learning materials, and I blew through that and I loved it. But now it's becoming more conceptual and really thinking through the processes, the product, the materials, why you're doing it, the overall form or image that you're making. Like it really pushes you to think those things, but they don't teach you that straight out. Okay. They believe, and I believe now, that you learn more through making, through the process of making than anything. Okay. And what I mean by that is getting your ass in here, being in the studio and just making, and those different connections you're going to make through making and while making, you would never make, ever make, guarantee it, just by writing things down or thinking about it.
Yeah, reading about it. Yeah.
So you make different discoveries by saying, okay, I have this idea, I have this material. What if I do it in this material? And you do it. What if I do this material, but I do it in this way or through this process? What if I do this? What if, you start really growing.
Yeah.
You start making those connections that you would never have the way I used to make. So just in that alone, coming here was worth it. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
So there's so many levels to seeing and keeping my eyes open to and being open to trying new things and all of these things are really starting to pile together and making me a much stronger person and a much stronger artist. And I'm so thankful,
That's awesome. I never knew about Texas Tech before, but I'm definitely going to be recommended it now if I have friends that are artists that want to do it, or even my little sister. I only have one sibling. She's 15 now, but she doesn't know super what she wants to do, but she's definitely artistically inclined. If she wants to go to art school, I'll let her know.
Yeah, and they help out scholarships, and they're really good about helping people find money and that sort of thing.
How long have you been there now then? So when
2.5 years.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And I think one of the reasons, like I said earlier, that I chose to come here over the other place is, dude, this place is way the hell out here, way out west, out in the middle of nowhere. It's so flat. It's so boring, but it's a good thing because it has allowed me to really focus on my work.
Yeah.
And if I went to KU, I have cousins that run bars. There's no way I would have gotten anything done. you know?
like the, you go out to the desert to find yourself. You got the facilities, no distractions.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
awesome.
And the other part of that's really awesome about this place is the teachers, the professors. Okay, a lot of places are still kind of antiquated. They still kind of work in certain ways. This place is really trying their best and have a lot of newer and upcoming artists and professors with a good mix of professors that have been here for a long time,
Mhm.
like William Cannings, who is my head of my department, sculpture, or Rob Glover, who's the head of jewelry. They've been here for years,
Mhm.
like 10, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of breadth to how things have been done traditionally. But then they have all these newer professors that are trying to up and come and see things being done in a new way, like with the whole Zoom thing, or Cody Arnall, who is a mixed media and sculpture area, who does a lot of um, teaching newer processes like 3D printing and mold making and mixed media. So there's a lot of things that I had never been introduced to
Mhm.
until I came here. And then you have people who are like Rob, who, he's traditional in jewelry, but he's really open to
Mhm.
pushing yourself and trying. That's the number one thing I love about this place is all right, grad school is a time for explorations and just
Yeah.
trying, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks.
That's
And
awesome.
they're really open to that. So
Yeah.
that's what I really love is that they're really trying to push this program to be that all encompassing
Mhm.
and open to really pushing yourself
Mhm.
more than a lot of other programs that I've seen. So
That's
I've
awesome.
been able to do that. All right. And so with that said, that leads me into what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Right.
How'd you find out about? Oh yeah. Say what it is, I guess, and then I can.
Okay. So like you, I'm into sustainability. I'm into um, materiality and questioning values within that.
Mhm.
Okay. That's where it's grown for me. I started out here bringing my abilities and my processes, and then I wanted to push myself outside of my comfort zone and do something different that I've never done before. So get away from carving, get away from metalworking. Some I still do some. Well, I still do both a little bit, but I wanted to say what materials are out there that I have not done that would really push me.
Yeah.
And in doing that and researching sustainability, because I've actually taken like environmental sustainability classes
Mhm.
and some other things like that. What was the other one? Art. It was art and ecology restoration.
Mhm.
That was a really interesting
Yeah, that's
class.
an
So
interesting.
it
Yeah,
took
especially all like polyesters, all their fibers break down and everything.
kind of how you view art.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So we actually had an ecologist and an artist who taught this class together. It was really awesome.
Mhm.
Um, it really got me thinking about my footprint and
Mhm.
that as an artist. So it's really interesting to me, and I haven't quite figured out how to tackle it yet. But artists make a huge fucking mess, making huge
Yeah.
in different ways. Some of it's not bad, some of it's terrible.
Yeah, it really is interesting. They,
So
they they could make some of the biggest messes in terms of like the amount you have to go through to end with the final product. There are also the
yeah,
people that could potentially take things that would be considered trash or the waste product or something else and make into something awesome. Like they
yes,
have
that's me.
be that like converter in both roles. It's cool.
That's me. Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
we'll get there. Okay. So it's been really it's been a challenge for myself to see that waste and seeing how much I'm contributing to the waste collective.
Hmm.
So that bothered me already. And then you add in what I found was the use of plastics
Hmm.
and how much that's contributing to and destroying our ecosystems. That is where my research started.
Hmm.
So my first semester, I didn't know what the hell I was going to do, and I started outside of my comfort zone doing like installation pieces because we that's what Cody likes to teach. He's really very in tune to that.
Or?
Okay, so installation art is different than an installed piece of art, whereas you're creating an environment for the person or the viewer to become a part of. Okay? So you can look up someone like Ai Weiwei, Ernesto Neto, and you can start looking up some of these artists, Yayoi Kusama, Team Labs, Oliver Eliasson. All of these are kind of contemporary artists that they're creating the artwork to where you become a part of it as the viewer. So it is completely different than the traditional looking at a painting. You're a pair of eyes, you're in a fixed position looking at a piece of work.
Yeah.
Whereas in an installation, there is no one perfect spot to view it from. Every viewer is going to bring something different. They have their own dreams, their own memories, their own thoughts, their own everything that they're going to bring to that installation. So they're going to view that, feel differently within that installation, right?
From different angles, it'll hit them all different.
Right. And me as the creator, I have to create something in such a way that I want them to have a specific outcome. Like I want them to feel a certain way. And so it's a whole new challenge of like, how do I then take what I'm making to create that environment, not just a piece of art.
Yeah.
So it was a huge challenge, and I love it.
No, yeah, I never knew quite what that meant. Yeah, now that it makes a lot more sense.
There's a little more to it, but there's also, its own history of how it started and how it grew and how it's changed, and then what it is now is a lot different than how it first started, because it was much more, kind of a way of saying fuck you to the art world and saying I'm not going to make a form, I'm going to make this instead. Like there's a lot of layers to it. It's very much an onion. So you can, I have a really good article by Claire Bishop if you'd like to read more about it, and it really dives a little deeper into it.
We can link it too. Yeah, if you want to send me that, we can link it in. Yeah.
Okay. Claire Bishop.
And I'll message you after too.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it. I'm terrible with that sort of thing. But
no, I do, yeah.
So I started out there, but within doing that, I don't really. I have one instance that. Okay, so this is out of my lecture that I'm going to be giving here on the 23rd for part of my MFA thesis. I was taught in class by Carol Flukiger. One day she said, if you're struggling on figuring out what to make, one of the things you can do is try to think of something that's bigger than yourself and then make about that. And then Rob Glover told me one day, okay, if you're struggling, one of the things you really want to continue to ask yourself as an artist is, what are you contributing to the world? And both of those were said to me within the first semester. And it really, it got me, because that's exactly what I was here for, was trying to figure that very thing out, right? And so I took a drive back home to Kansas, which is about a 9-hour drive. And something you may not know about West Texas is it is the windiest freaking place I have ever been in my life. Okay. Like you think a few gusts of wind that'll blow you off the road or bad, you have no idea. Like the wind here will actually sandblast your car.
Yeah.
That's how bad it is. Okay. Wow. Well, on that drive, there were tumbleweeds, just thousands of them. The whole from Lubbock all the way to Oklahoma. Like it was just, I had never seen anything like it. I didn't, I've seen pictures of tumbleweeds, but what the fuck is a tumbleweed? I don't know. I've never seen one.
It's like a cartoon plant.
Yes, exactly. Well, at the same time, I'm thinking, okay, trying to think, I need to figure out what am I going to make, how I'm going to make, what's my next step. And then those concepts that my two teachers had said to me was really rattling around. And literally at the same time, a trash bag flew across the road and almost stuck to my antenna. Yeah. And I'm like, wait a minute. And I made that connection between a tumbleweed and plastic. And I'm like, that's a material. Wait a minute. I haven't done that yet.
Yeah.
A lot of people are afraid of plastics because technically they're kind of hard to work with,
Oh,
if
I
I'm going to
bet.
be honest, because it takes heat and pressure to do a lot of it.
Yeah.
Right. That's very limiting at
Yeah.
times.
It's something you had to like
So,
re-put together into something,
yes,
and this is, you know, it's not like carving out of something. You have to
right.
make the shape.
So,
Yeah.
so in that, I'm thinking, okay, bam, that's where I want to head. I want to figure out how to play with plastics and how they are manipulated, how
Mhm.
they act and react to different things. Like,
Mhm.
what if I take the same tools that I use for wood carving and carve on them? What does it look like? What does it do? How does it react? What
Mhm.
if I do some of the metalworking techniques, like, just trying all these different things. And
Mhm.
then, after my research, seeing, okay, it takes heat. Okay, well, what kind of heat? Like, how do I apply it? Do I throw a torch on it? Well, no, because then it can off-put gases and all these other things. Well, do I put it in an oven? Well, does it need ventilation? Can I put it in a gas oven that you do with um, a kiln for ceramics, or my professor uses a kiln for his work, or for doing bronzes you have to use one. What are those going to do? And so I started playing with that, and then I went and really lucked out on this, and I went to the recycling center, which is literally right behind. See that wall? That's the back wall to my studio. Right there is the recycling center.
That's awesome. That's
So,
good happenstance. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah, it
I
really seems like everything, like the
went
whole story
over
building
there.
up to now, like you were like one of the someone with your skills is the exact person needed for that task. Where, like you said, it's really easy to not want to work with plastic or any of those materials because most people do not like the part of purposefully picking something hard to work with and figuring it out. You know,
Right.
that seems like part of that for you. That's just like like the unraveling thread. There's so much.
Yes.
There's infinite for you to just keep attacking. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. And it's been a freaking roller coaster, let me tell you. But I ended up meeting with a lady named Lynn Thurston.
Hmm.
She's someone who's in charge of the recycling area. She works for hospitality here. Um, Dude, she's also one of us in the sense that she's all about sustainability, all
Hmm.
about getting the word out.
Hmm.
The younger you can get, the better to
Hmm.
get that knowledge to them. So she likes to do things for the middle school and high schools around here, all that kind of stuff. She does an art contest on campus that's all recycled work,
Yeah.
which is really awesome. So I had a piece in that. Um, and so we really hit it off, and she I don't know if she had permission to do a lot of what she did, but she saw what I wanted to do, so she went and showed me what they call a styrofoam densifier.
Hmm.
And dude, that's where it really blew up for me. um, the material that came out of it is really weird and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
um, Let me see. Hold on 1 second. See if I can get a couple different pieces of what it looks like when it comes out. There we go. There's this kind, then I have this kind.
So is it fully just compression? Is any heat like is there any kind of heat applied too, or just this is pure
Okay,
compression
so
of
what this machine does is it has a big hopper, and
what's a
it
hopper?
takes just what?
What's a hopper or hopper?
Oh, okay. So it's a hopper is just part of I guess it's a mechanical term
Uh-huh.
for a machine that has an area where you put the material in that's away from moving
Oh, okay.
product,
Okay. So literally
to
like
where
the
you're
giant.
not getting your hands in.
Yeah, the giant. Yeah, I can see it in my head. I didn't know what that was called. Cool.
Yep, yep. And so it takes the styrofoam and you put it in, and it has hands. You've seen like recycling places for like metal or for cars? or
Yeah.
even other places that have the machines that have the tines that come together.
Yeah, it's like the grinding, the
Yes,
grinding part. Yeah, okay.
exactly. So it has that inside of it, and
Uh-huh.
it breaks it up. Styrofoam's really light. It's like 97 to 99% air.
Hmm.
There's not a whole lot of plastic in it.
Yeah.
So it breaks it up, and then it pulls it down into the bottom part, which has this huge auger. So an auger is uh, um, like a mechanical screw.
Oh,
So it
they're
has,
spinning it down. Yeah.
yeah. So if you've ever seen them till farmland,
Yeah.
the big tills,
Yeah.
that same thing. So
Gotcha.
it's an auger because it spins and it's actually pushing that material, and that's
Down.
why it's called an
Yeah.
auger. It's pushing that material out.
Yeah.
Well, as it's in that auger, it's got a heating element around it that heats it up to about 300, 400 degrees, somewhere around there, and it's melting that, and then it oozes out of. So it's not really an injection machine; it's more of an extruder. So
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So after okay, I'll jump ahead a little bit here. I actually bought the machine.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So I used my financial aid for for the future. Okay, let's just
That's
put
a
it that
cool, I mean, like, it seems like this is like a perfect area for you. So that's like a very,
way.
that's like all the capital you need in terms of like physical assets is that machine to turn all
Yeah.
the.
Well, it's one of others that I want to make.
Oh yeah,
that
yeah, one big one.
have to do with PET plastics, like number 2 plastics, like a water bottle. They
Yeah.
do that too.
Okay.
If you want to put this one in there too, I think it would be cool because then they'll see somebody else that's like talking about them. I think it would be cool. If you go to preciousplastics.com,
That's
it is,
is this a site? Is it a video like a?
yes, it is an open source website out of the UK that have actual mechanical plans that you can download to build machines yourself that do this for the PET plastic.
That's awesome. So that's
Yeah,
like they're like a. That's
it,
cool. They teach
that
people.
was the original idea that I wanted to do before buying this machine for PET plastics, because I really wanted to stick with that and
Uh-huh.
learn to break it down. Okay, so I view this in the sense that in materiality wise, I want to break the material down to its core form and
Hmm.
not do like most people do with plastics and do what they call upcycled. I think that's boring because you can still see what the original intent of that particular product was, what that
Yeah.
object used to be. I
Hmm.
don't want that. I want to be able to break it down to its core material
I
and be
kind of
able to
agree
manipulate.
also in the sense that you're upcycling more physical mass of those plastics doing what you're doing. Like let's say like you make art out of 5 water bottles. They're not full, like you're like mashing them into something, making it into something. But like doing it this process, just to get the mass you need to create what you're gonna make, you'd use like 100 because you'd actually condense them, like you're making a different form of the material. So you're solving the problem in another way. Like or like it to
It
me.
is one answer, one small answer.
What?
I said it is one small answer. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Awesome.
So the machine is about 1,400 pounds,
Mhm.
and I bought it for $5,000.
It's a small car.
So
Yeah.
yes, it is exactly what it is. Okay. So I've also started to learn now that I've finally been able to get it working. It takes not only a 220 or 320, I can't remember, but it's also a 3-phase, so it's very high end on that. You have to have an actual thing run for it for the electricity. Well, the school didn't have one for where I could put it, so navigating the intricacies of our school and getting help to get that done took almost a year.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Get like a place where it can function in the school.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I finally got it this semester up and running, and I've already gotten to play with it. And here's one piece that I've created. It's just a little walking cane that I'm going to use in my thesis show next semester.
Uh-huh.
But if you look, you can kind of see the quality. Okay, see how
It's
it's
an interesting material. Yeah, it's like
right. It's got a
like a
bone.
thick-ass version of like a spider's web. to me.
Yeah. Okay. So you can get that idea of how just ethereal, like how weird of
Yeah, it
of
really
a
is an
product.
ethereal.
And
That's the
then
word for it.
you can get it to go a little bit more
Creamy. Yeah, that one's
solid.
less thread-like.
Okay. And then you can also get it to be like this, to where it's shiny, glistening, almost taffy-like.
Yeah, and this is the same machine on different settings. Which part of the
No,
process is changing
no.
to create those different
Okay.
end results?
This is the fun part, and it's kind of a pain in the ass because of where I'm at with getting materials.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you can see, you could also see when I showed you the different pieces, the coloration, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So on the first one I showed you, it had a little bit of color intermixed all over the place. The other one was all white, and then the other one was mostly colored, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There are two different types of plastic or of styrofoam that I've been getting from town, from the community.
Mhm.
Um, Packaging. So you have just regular, like
Peanuts.
like foam
Oh, okay.
packaging,
Okay.
right? And then you have clamshells, um, meat trays, and styrofoam cups. Okay.
Okay. Are
Now, if you,
clamshells like what you get a burger in? Yeah.
yes,
Okay, okay.
yes. Okay. So now take those and think back on the way they look, the way they feel, the way they act.
Yeah, they're less porous than the
Exactly.
yeah.
Good. Okay. So the machine works off of heat.
Uh-huh.
The fact that there's less air in those pieces, the cups and whatnot melt at a much lower temperature.
Uh-huh.
So if you put this in the machine only with that material, then it'll actually melt and become extremely viscous and can actually clog the machine up, and then you're screwed.
Okay.
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 So
So
what
that's
you have to
put
do,
just the like clams and the trays, like the more like the less porous material does that.
right? Okay. So then the cane, I don't know if you can see it. If you look really close, you
Hmm.
can kind of see. Let me see if I can get some more light in here. Like kind of a red and blue in there.
I could
You
see
see
some of the
kind of
bluish.
speckles.
Yeah.
Okay, that's off of the advertising that and logos off the cups.
Oh, really?
So
Okay. Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, Whataburger, Sonic, all of these places have different looks. So
Mhm.
you're going to get a different color every time you use different
Dude,
ones.
that's so cool.
I'm
I love
doing
that.
it,
Yeah. Each piece
I'm
is
doing it very kind of openly and just throwing it all in
yeah,
and not
and each
really.
piece is intrinsically 100% one of a kind in a
Yes,
bunch of ways. Yeah.
in a bunch of ways. So the other one, this one is all packaging. So it's much more consistent and all white. So there's no coloration in it. So that in itself is one way that I hope to, once I start getting a chance to actually run the machine a lot and have a steady influx of actual material to use,
Hmm.
then I can start playing with that and getting the colors that I actually want.
Hmm.
Then it goes to, okay, how can I potentially really do this? And what if I were to figure out what kind of ink they're using on those cups and then get that particular ink, and then I can have that color, and then I
Yeah.
can go to packaging, and then I can get the same color, but
Yeah.
through without
You can
having
really
any issue.
match up. Yeah. Because you don't, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. You can think about any.
But the other thing is yes, you're right with what you said a minute ago. You can actually change the temperature, so I can actually
Okay.
bump that up and get a
Mhm.
different look too. And I haven't done that yet because I don't. I want to get used to the machine and
No,
not
for
break
sure.
it first.
And plus, you could run into that problem again of like, like you said, there's a certain amount. You can't have too much of that more dense um,
Right.
plastic, or it starts to clog up. So the same thing could happen if you raise the heat more.
Right. Exactly.
Um,
So,
that's so this is
right.
this material. I don't get how like I'm more on your boat in terms of, to me, just about interestingness, like that novel quality. The fact that like other artists or like other materials, you have the material, you make something out of it. This is like breaking that in 2 steps, like that's just like the second half, but you have you have an added first part of, you're kind of making your own material.
Yes.
I feel like there's all the, just like you said, breaking it down even to the components of what kind of ink is used in the thing that I'm making my material out of, and like the percent. Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah,
Yeah. It's a hell of a lot of fun, and
it's
I'm
awesome.
really learning a lot. Okay, so I'm gonna grab one more piece in this room. We'll talk some more, and then I'll take you down to the jewelry room where I'll
Okay,
show
I'm down.
you
Yeah,
some
we can get
of
into
the
the kind of stuff.
really major changes that I've been able to do. So
Okay,
I'm gonna
awesome.
show you the knives that Greg
Yeah, Greg
first.
sent me one picture of them. Yeah, but I didn't see them too closely.
Okay, and then I'm gonna also show you something else that I haven't shown anyone else yet. It's kind of some weird stuff, and I'm not really sure how to talk about it yet, or how to use it yet. But all right, so in both of what I'm about to show you, these are kind of, I am using a material that I'm recycling to make the material, and then I'm going to be recycling again in these pieces, if that makes sense.
Oh, I
So
get you.
let me try to explain. So
You're like
this
twice.
this is the faux jade knife that I made.
Uh-huh.
And as you can see, it's got that real shiny, natural quality that came out of the machine, as the other piece that I had shown you a minute ago,
Yeah.
right? So this is something I can't use the way I wanted it to, for what I was doing. This was like left over from this. So it was unintended. And now I'm going to be reusing it again as something else.
So what do you
And
mean left over?
okay, so
That clump? Like,
I have, yeah. So I'm wanting to create an installation with, oh, I just broke it.
which one? The big guy?
The big knife. Yep. Oops. Well, the good thing is I can glue that.
I see. Yeah, now we learned about the way it can break. Yeah.
Yeah, it is brittle, which is the weird part. It is
Yeah, now
brittle.
we're learning at least about that. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so cool.
So, okay, let me see if I can get far enough away. You can kind of see it, kind of can't. So I'm
Yeah.
making these long spindles that are coming out of the machine just naturally, like keeping it straight.
How big is the
And-
opening in the machine? Is it that diameter? Like that
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, about that big.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh my God. Yeah. I can potentially show you the machine tonight if you'd like to see it.
Oh, I'm super down. Yeah, if it's not,
Yeah.
yeah, you can, yeah.
It's in the wood shop, but I have the key. So,
Yeah.
So that's the intended view of what I'm trying to make right now, right? That's what I'm hoping it to become.
Mhm.
So when I first had turned on the machine, it heats up, and then whatever's left over in it, that's what ended up coming spooling out and kind of drooped down and became what it was. And then this knife and that knife were like leftovers from that, and then that's what I ended up carving into something functional.
So like the
So
tail bit of it, so it's like thinner, or okay. And how do you
yeah,
pull it out? Do you just have to let it, like, I'm assuming it's still pretty hot as it's coming out.
actually, just a good pair of leather gloves, and it's not too bad.
It's not too bad to work
I mean,
with. Yeah.
it's melting at
Imagine,
300
like, glass
degrees.
blowing and stuff. I'm like, how much control do you get when you're pulling it out? Yeah.
A little bit. It comes out pretty slow.
Yeah.
So it helps to control things. So here are some other, I don't know if you'll be able to see this very well, but they're like little spindle,
Yeah.
got weird texture to it. Here's a bunch of colored ones from the colored stuff. I'm trying to figure out how to use this, but I think it's really interesting that this is like after grinding to carve what I wanted to carve in the other pieces that I have made. This is what ended up coming out. And now I want to take that instead of,
to me, that looks exactly like, so both my parents are like, they're not researchers now. I mean, they kind of still are, but like very sciencey family. They're both biochem. So I grew up all around that and like watching them do presentations of, like you're watching like ribosomes with like super close up, like bacteria cells. That looks super like that. That like that thing to me looks like a protein, like a very close up version of like a full, like that string is just like a really folded up protein. and it's got like a color hue like that. But I grew up all around pictures of, you know, super zoomed in proteins like that. So that looks super like that to me. I'm gonna send you some pictures of that because that could inspire you to make something like that. Those are like a lot like it. It looks like a bowl of those.
Yeah.
Globular.
It looks like a really gross cereal.
Yeah, that too.
Okay, so my thought on that one is, okay, so I've taken one material and I'm breaking it down to recycle it and use it for something else. I'm doing that and I'm putting it through a process again by carving it, and that's what's coming out of after carving it. So then it's like recycled twice now, because now I want to now use that, whereas most people, when they carve, and the stuff that comes off of whatever they're carving ends up just going in the trash.
So those little spindle things that turn into those balls is like that's like a long kind of like thread instead of like sawdust or something. If you're carving wood, that's coming off that way. Like you're literally like, as you're carving that, just hanging on.
Yeah. Okay. So let me grab a couple more things. So the university bought a different machine after they sold that one to me. I'm trying to grab a few different examples here so I can show you. So you can kind of see all the craziness that I've been doing. Okay, and so this machine uses pressure only. It's a big ram. So it's pressing all the air out manually instead of heating it. So there's no heat. Okay, so the problem they had with the machine that I bought was the fact that we're in West Texas and it is very windy most of the time. And when it's not, it's a little rainy. So it's one or the other. Having a really nice clear day is rare, right? So in order to do this at the recycling center, they didn't have room for it where it sat inside. They would have to wheel it outside and do it outside. So if it was raining, it would ruin the machine. If it was windy, it'd be blowing styrofoam all over the place.
And that's the one you have?
Yes.
Okay.
So it has to be done inside. It's not a big deal. But the new machine is huge and just takes pressure, and it doesn't take any heat, and it creates big bricks.
Yeah.
And they extrude out, and they can be like this long, like pretty long, right?
And they're just brittle.
They're
just brittle. Are they more brittle?
No, these aren't. The ones that are heated with my machine, it's brittle.
Oh, so that's not brittle?
No, like it's pretty hard.
Interesting. Yeah.
But you can see, like on this one, like an example of something I did. I used spray foam to glue them together. But see how it's kind of like really not pressed real hard, and it's not real dense yet. It's still you can kind of still see a lot of the styrofoam qualities to it compared to this one, where it's like really condensed. I think this was them playing around with the machine, trying to learn it, and this one was not a good product. And then this is what it should turn out to be.
Yeah.
Recycling wise,
I bet there's a lot of playing too in terms of like, because obviously they're just doing to recycle or like to compress recycled materials. But if you're using it in an artist sense, it'd play a huge role of like what you're putting in there. If you put like, you know, like it's like I'm imagining like when chefs are making like the perfect like sausage or hamburger, like the kind like the like 40% chuck, 30% like this kind of rib, like you need the right percentages of fat, you know. So the same kind of what ratios of the types of plastics you're putting in to make it more denser. That's so cool.
There's that. There's definitely that. But also as an artist, and I'm trying to give agency to this particular material, really allowing it to do whatever it's going to do coming out of the machine is where it's at. I don't want to have complete control of it right now. Like I really want to see where I can go with that first. So I've also done other things like this piece, so you can see how really fine edge that is.
Yeah, that one's
like I took this one is the same as this one in the sense that it's really dense, and I took it to the planer and to a joiner and got it like stupid smooth and very sharp edges compared to what this looks like. So really just playing around with what it's capable of. And I kind of covered up what I'm working on to show you all this stuff. Just give me a second, but I'm making an arch right now, and it's kind of got these pieces cut and then sanded and make a big arch.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's going to go on the wall.
The question I was literally about to ask is if you can make it into a curve. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it.
So if you look, let's see if, there we go. Can you kind of see the marbling effect it has on it?
Yeah, I was going to say that looks like
yeah. So that's another thing that's really starting to play in on a lot of what I'm making and what I'm about to go show you down in jewelry is this idea of mimicking the very nature that we're destroying with what we're destroying it with.
Yeah, that's super cool. No, that's basically what Greg texted me. He's like, this great buddy of mine has figured out how to use condensed materials to mimic like real earth, like metals or like stones, and like the knives look so much like real jade, like the coloring and like the glossiness. That's so cool. And it's a mind fuck kind of in terms of what it is. But
right? Okay, so I'm gonna grab this key. All right, so don't mind me. I'm gonna have to put my mask on. I am in the university, so they're still really shitty about it. Here's another fun little thing that I've been working on. I took a mold of the piece of foam that I showed you a minute ago, and then casted it in a ton of different materials. So bronze, aluminum, plaster, beeswax, soap, concrete, a lot of different things. And so what I'm trying to do in my mind with doing that is I am kind of questioning the value systems of materiality. So why are those different materials worth more or considered or viewed as worth more than the styrofoam, when the styrofoam can do a good job at what it's done and do, you know, in this sense, the same thing as jade or, you know, these other things. Why is it considered trash?
Yeah, exactly. Like if
That's
there's a giant cube of gold or a giant cube of some gold covering one of those, you know, what's the difference?
You're breaking up.
It's a little better now. Can you hear me?
Oh.
Hello?
I hope this doesn't.
Oh, okay, it's better now. Yeah.
Yeah, walking through a big building is probably what's doing it.
Yeah.
So, okay. But yeah, so that, especially within the jewelry area. And I'm going to show you what really led to that piece. So I had played around with this material for a little while and didn't know what all I had or what it was capable of, right? And I then decided to just see what would happen testing it with different machines. And I found that it was easily cut with a bandsaw, and that
which materials is now? Is this the one used in the machine you have or the second one?
My machine.
Okay.
Yep. And so I wanted to see if I took it through with like the woodworking type of making, like those processes, and to see what would happen to it. And I found that it cuts easy. You can use a shape. So I used a router on it. You can then sand it and then polish it. And so that's what ended up leading to this guy right here.
So it can act well as wood. Man, that's awesome. That looks so much like stone.
Yeah.
Like I would never guess that's not stone, at least in terms of like view. I don't know what the weight difference is and stuff.
Big time weight. It's so light. I mean,
yeah,
it's
I bet.
really confusing when somebody picks it up to put it on. So I don't.
Yeah, okay, that's better for the lighting. But yeah, that's wild. That looks literally just like jade or like green marble.
Right. If you you know, on my website, there's, you know, professional pictures of it, so you can actually see what it looks like. It's not very good.
So
So that piece right there was
into like a sphere like that.
I have specialty tools that I bought from China that
Oh, okay.
allow you to make beads out of wood, and so I used the same thing on this, and it worked.
Yeah, I was like, how the hell do you do that? Yeah.
Right.
That's cool though. Yeah, you figure out that it basically acts like wood. It's not gonna fall apart in a different way.
Right. So I've done that one, and then this guy right here, and it's kind of like more like a granite almost.
Mm-hmm. So it's just a different color of the same thing.
Yeah. So, using a certain kind of cup with a certain logo on it with certain colors, it's going to mix out and come out a different color.
Yeah.
So, basically, so on both of these pieces, you can see that I use silver, like sterling silver.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my way of like creating a juxtaposition between the two materials and questioning that value.
Yeah.
So what has been sought after for centuries was silver being a very expensive material, whereas the plastic is like absolute trash.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, the thing holding this necklace, like holding the jewel of this necklace, is the expensive part of the necklace.
Right.
The thing.
But then it looks like jade.
Yeah, exactly. That's really cool.
So that was kind of where my mindset was making those pieces. And it's kind of what has led me to a lot of everything else that I've made. And I'll show you, I'm going to give you a firsthand view of a bunch of stuff that I have made this semester that I don't have up on my website yet.
Awesome. We got a sneak peek.
Yeah. So this one I'm going to show you, but I'm going to kind of set it aside. This is not part of this. This is completely different, but this was a dedication to a teacher that died this summer due to cancer. So I'm going to just kind of set that out of the way.
Beautiful piece.
But you can see I love all my different materials.
Is that wood?
Yeah, that was wood, paint, and emu feathers.
Okay.
And then leather in between the sandwich pieces of wood.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to kind of start out with the very first couple of pieces I made in jewelry and then kind of work my way around.
Okay.
So here's that piece.
So, and are these all with the, like?
No, not all.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to try to show you all of, but some of it, as you can see, like right there, that is PVC and rubber. Rubber. And so I'm also talking about materiality in the sense of our throwaway culture and the stuff that we throw away. And this stuff is all from a local phone company.
Okay.
And so, every time we evolve and create new and better technology, we end up throwing away the outmoded.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible, like most people do not know or have ever seen how much crap construction and business people throw away. It is unreal.
Scary number. It's like, I think like over half of physical waste by mass is like construction materials. Like people don't think about the fact that like we're just starting to now think about the fact that, oh, a building we build isn't going to last forever. What happens to that when you knock it down? Like,
right.
So much of the waste is just like old brick, old material like that.
Yeah. So that piece right there is the first one that I had made with that material before I bought the machine. And that was just from what I had collected from them. My professor asked us to do an outrageous ring competition. So I created this guy.
Nice. Yeah.
So it's got all the craziness and connected with copper.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. I created another kind of smaller piece that's got like some really cool texture on it.
What's that made of?
It's the same stuff and then copper.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. And then then the next semester after that, I started playing to see what the material could do. And that's when I realized it could be polished. So I tried to make
so much like rock, man, or like
exactly. So I wanted to make a rock that also kind of mimicked a glacier and just kind of all these different connotations. This is another favorite one. It's like super shiny, which is really strange to me, but it's really, really
That's
light.
so weird. Yeah, I want to hold that. Like in terms of, like,
Right?
I bet that's crazy light. Like
It is. It is. And it when someone goes to put it on or wear it, it like confuses the hell out of them.
they expect
It's
rocks.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So this is the first piece I finished this semester,
Hmm.
right there.
Looks awesome. Looks Egyptian as hell to me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it actually kind of sticks out a little ways from the body.
Uh.
And so this is walnut, and then this is the styrofoam,
Oh,
and
okay.
then
White is
this
okay.
is this is the second one that I made, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah, that looks freaking awesome. That looks like pearl.
Yes, exactly,
Pearl,
exactly.
white jade. It looks like a really expensive rock. Like that, like, like, and so that's that material and wood and like what? Like sterling silver?
No, it's copper and brass. So I
Oh,
have
okay.
uh, round discs in between each one that alternate from copper to brass. It's hard
Okay.
to see. I know, bad
And
lighting.
is the brown, is that wood or is that more of that
Yeah,
material?
yes, that is walnut,
Okay, okay.
and it's all buffed up to like maybe 2000 grit or something like that.
What does that mean?
So it's really smooth. So
Mhm.
the higher the grit, the smoother it gets.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I was like, what is that unit? Yeah.
So these ones, so this one I did not polish. I just sanded to like 220, and
Hmm.
that was it. This one I high polished. So I wanted to kind of see what happens
Yeah.
when you do the two different and the way it reacts to it and how it ends up
Yeah, man,
looking.
that thing looks so cool. Like the
And
first one looks cool. I like how it looked, but that second one looks, when I mean cool, is like that. If I saw it somewhere, I'd be like, this costs at least 10 grand, And the what it's made of, yeah, like it looks so like an alien's piece of jewelry.
so here you can kind of see a little bit better the
Yeah.
copper brass.
I love the shape too of the whole thing. It looks like the shape of each segment looks like vertebrae,
Yes,
to me.
yes, ribbed. I love it.
Awesome.
So I really wanted it to look organic as much as possible.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then I finally got my machine running
Hmm.
by this point. And all right, you ready for this? This
Yeah.
piece is freaking nuts. It's huge. It's extremely heavy. It hurts to wear. And that's kind of the whole point. Like
It's kind of the whole.
we're killing ourselves.
Yeah.
We're destroying the environment. It's a very weighted, or as they would call a wicked problem, or they call it a hyper object. So
Yeah.
plastic pollution is a hyper object.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah.
So it's all the way around.
That's like a necklace.
Yes, and it's like 3 layers.
Is each of those things like the styrofoam?
Yes.
And what
So you
gives
can
it the
see
weight?
how crazy different colors you can get.
Yeah, those
Orange,
are really wild.
black to greens to blues. Like it just depends on the cups that I put in.
Yeah.
So
Damn,
it's
that's so metal-like though. In terms of
right.
like all those shades look like metals and gems and stones.
And some of them look really cool. Like right here, you get like this green, and then you got the white kind of coming up over it. So it looks really like it would in nature. Like that.
Yeah.
That's how something would form underground. And then you can get
I
like
mean,
these
because yeah, I mean, when you think of
variations.
like if you think of what a rock is in terms of like sediment compressed over time by just like natural pressure,
Hmm.
it's being formed in the same way, just slower and made of like it's not plastic, but it's like these sediments just being compressed together over time. So it has the same, it makes sense that they'd have the exact same or like very similar dispersion, like the way, like that's super cool to think about actually. It's
Right.
the same process, one's just super slowed down. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So the next one I'm going to show you is a little more simple,
Hmm.
but I think it's one of my favorites just because it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like it heightens it almost. It
Yeah.
makes it feel like the person would be really important. I mean, kind of like the one that you really liked here.
The bone one. Yeah, it just seems super like opulent.
Yeah. All right. Ready for this?
Yeah, I'm hyped. Oh yeah, that looks super Egyptian too.
Right?
Yeah, that looks, yeah.
And it's heavy, even though, but not at the same time. And this is how it comes out of the machine. So this is showing the process
Yeah, it looks
and
like robes.
making it wearable at the same time. So it goes all the way around.
Skeletal robes.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, that looks awesome.
So I'm gonna wear this to my show, for my thesis show,
Yeah,
my
you should.
exhibition
Yeah.
I have to give. And then I'm gonna have that cane that I showed you a minute ago. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna be walking around with that within the whole place.
Yeah. And you could put, like, even on that cane, you could put, like, you could do so much detail work with, like, fake jade, like the head of it. You could make like a head of like a, I'm imagining my favorite place. I've always wanted a like really nice big stone chess set where it's like dark jade and like something that's like either onyx or like pearl on the other side. But I've always wanted like a jade chess set. So I always think of like a
I
little
can make you a faux one.
things. Huh?
Then I can make you a faux one.
I would love that. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. And you can even like to give like the tactile pieces, you can just have like the core at the bottom have like some weight in it, you know, like you can literally put a weight at the bottom. But that's so cool. I love that. Yeah.
So then the last piece I made is not nearly as interesting as those, but I think it's going to be fun. I took the big bricks
Uh-huh.
and I have a choker. You can see the choker in there.
Oh yeah.
And I took all the and chained them all to it, and then have that hanging down around me, weighing me down.
Yeah, that's definitely good for the symbolism of it. Yeah. Are they connected to each piece of the choker? Yep.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And some of them are
I
pretty
could
big.
definitely see that in a piece or like in like a gallery, like someone just
Right?
hire a person to just stand there with that.
Yeah. So I got a lot of like photography we have to do, but things have been so crazy with COVID, and a lot of the undergrads are not making very much, and my professor's kind of mad.
Yeah, that makes no sense. I feel like, I mean, I'm personally probably as extreme optimist as you can get. And when something like COVID, there's nothing like COVID that's ever happened in my life, but just any situation where you have to, like everyone around you is kind of assuming the worst, that's when I want to like do my best. You know, I want to like, okay, well, I want to go to a new level and push myself as hard as I can go and take this the opposite route, you know?
Exactly.
So I think especially with art, COVID's got to be like, you know, like the world is closed down. You can just like be there and make art. Like you have more free time to create.
Right.
So that just makes sense to me.
Okay, it's gonna get a little loud here. Take you into to give you a sneak peek of the machine.
Okay,
But,
yeah.
we have an air system in the wood shop that if anyone's working, it turns on, and it's a little loud. So just a heads up.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Well, here she is.
Oh, it is really like a car, like a little car. Like
It's big. You can see right here. That's a planer. Right here. That's a planer. That's a pretty big machine usually, right?
So you have that set up next to it to work with the stuff that comes out right away?
Yeah. So down there is where it comes out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like
So
a 3-inch diameter.
up here is the hopper.
Uh-huh.
So that's where you put your material in. And then over here you have your controls. So each side of it actually opens up. Down here you have the big motor that runs the tines that break it up. And then you have the auger that runs straight back behind here. And then the heater is right on it.
Uh-huh. So this one's like no condensing. This is like ground up and heated and like fun, like controlled through. There's no like condensing portion. That's
right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you can see what it looks like down in there.
Yeah.
All the leftover white puffiness.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's the machine.
Where do you keep your like material store?
I have a I have my own trailer out back that I brought to be able to uh, collect materials because I wanted to start making in mixed media and kind of putting a lot of materials together.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that trailer, I ended up making like a big cage to go on it. And that way I could go get materials from different places,
Mm-hmm.
wherever that may be in London. And that way they don't blow away. And so most of the time I just keep it in there for now. I'm trying to find a a better source because one of the problems that we have is that the recycling center, due to COVID, actually got shut down permanently.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, permanently. Whoa.
yeah,
That's
because they were, see, that's okay. So one of the biggest problems with sustainability or with recycling is that it is not very cost effective
yeah.
or efficient. And this place is like extremely good proof of that, in the sense that they were spending $500,000 a year just to pay workers to sort through all the materials that people would come in and drop off.
Mm-hmm.
That's a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I was told by some of the workers that, let's say, the glass that they would collect, they would pay someone to come pick it up at like $800 a truckload.
Mm-hmm.
So you're bleeding money.
Mm-hmm.
Then I don't know if I showed you that. I kind of
How are
walked
those
right
not
past it.
subsidized by the government? How is the government not just like, you know what I'm
So
saying? Like, how does that even happen?
probably
I need to know much more about that in terms of they shouldn't even be like entrepreneur. They shouldn't be for profits, because that doesn't even make any sense as a system. They should be purely subsidized. So that's
you would
all.
think
What is that?
that's all the bricks that was left over when they got shut down.
Okay. Okay.
They gave me 6 pallets of it.
Hmm.
So I have a lot of material to be able to play with and do fun things like that.
Yeah.
I have another one that's down there that you can barely see. Sorry, this is hard to do with a laptop,
No, you're
but I
good.
made another arch right
Yeah.
there, but it's with cups. So it's got a bunch of colors in it.
Yeah.
So once I get all this photographed, uh, probably over break, I'll stay here and take photographs of a bunch of stuff and get it on my website. But
Hmm.
um, when they closed down, they weren't able to get anyone to come pick up because it was only 6 pallets.
Hmm.
So it wouldn't be worth it to another company to drive clear out here to the middle of nowhere to pick that up. And
Hmm.
that's the biggest problem that they had was there is no recycling center anywhere near us that actually does the recycling itself.
Hmm.
All they do are the pusher. They're the middleman. They collect it from the entire city, but then they have to find a way to get other people to be interested in what they have to
Hmm.
come get it.
To come process
And
it.
and then you add in. Have you ever heard of an author named Brett Bloom?
Hmm.
You should look him up. And it's called Petrosubjectivity. It's a really, really, really good read. And what he's talking,
Petrosubjectivity.
yeah, and what
What?
he's talking about is our how deep our reliance and the our almost addiction to oil is.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I never thought of until I read that was how much oil is used in ways that you don't really think about.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's take this recycling for example. You're costing people, they buy the material, so already there's the first use. You have the people who are producing that material out of the oil, whatever that is. So then you have the machines, you have the processing and the plants
Hmm.
to make those products.
And the collecting of it.
And well, yeah. Well, before that, this is okay. So take like all the let's use.
I meant collecting the stuff to make the plastic the first time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like the oil, the actual oil product.
Yeah.
So the, there's all ways that are being used to use oil and to spend oil and just that alone. But then you got to think about, okay, well, then it has to be transported to wherever it is that we, the consumer, is getting it. Then it has to sit at wherever that is. So let's say Brett Bloom used a really good example of a bicycle. Okay. How many items on that bicycle are made out of plastic first? Then you think about where it was made, how it was made, all the workers that have to get there to make them. They're driving. Okay. Then you have the electricity that it takes to run the plant and run the machines and keep the lights on, the air conditioning. Okay. Then you got to ship it somewhere. So then the cost of shipping and the fuel that it takes to do that and the worker, and then you get that to wherever, like let's say Walmart. So the bike sits at Walmart for 2 years and nobody buys it. It's sitting in there with the lights on, the air conditioning running. There's oil being used there constantly. Then you talk about, the person then comes and buys it. They're having to drive it to go get it. So it's just like this huge
every step,
cycle.
every single thing. Yeah, it's wild.
And it's deeper than most people think or even talk about.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that I really want to push in what I'm making with this material is to call attention to these issues, so people can have a direct connection to it. And the way I'm doing that is not just in the material and what I'm making, but also where I'm getting it from, because I'm collecting it from the community.
Yeah.
So majority of the time, people are collecting, right, and taking their waste somewhere to be sent off to be recycled. Now, what percentage of that actually gets recycled? Not very much.
Yeah.
Okay, I give you the
like it's horrible how even if it was, I'd rather like in some ways have the worst inefficiency, but have it be really transparent. Like it's it's so hard to know for like obviously anybody involved in the process. Like it sucks how variable it is and how hard it is to get like those numbers and get them to people and keep those numbers constant, so like you can't even, it's so hard to build off of. You don't even know where you're at. No one knows.
Well, not only that, but the technology continues to change, so they're still trying to figure out what the best ways of doing it is. So then when that changes, then those numbers change as well.
Exactly.
So in my research, I found there's 78 million tons of plastic packaging produced per year. Of that, only 14% gets collected to be recycled. Of that 14%, only 2% is actually recycled in a high enough quality to be reused. That is a very small percentage.
That's super depressing. 0.02 of 0.14.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then what was it? 40% of it gets burned and 30% of it goes to the dump. And then the last 30% is not collected and it just ends up out in our oceans and out in our backyards and in the rivers and killing our ecosystems. That's over 30 million tons polluting our earth. And that number rises exponentially every year.
US a year? Or is that globally a year? Probably just the US.
Probably, yeah. I can't remember now.
Yeah, I feel like it's even way bigger, yeah.
Yeah. So here's another fun fact about PET plastics, like this, like a bottle. If it sits outside in the environment for more than 1 year, it is no longer capable of being reused in recycling, period.
I didn't know that at all. I feel like no one knows that. So
right?
What is that? Do you know? Or
it degrades too far.
Yeah, that's just wild. It's not just like the outer, like the outer layer that's degrading, or like maybe, or just the fact that the outer layer degrading is enough to ruin the whole thing for.
It is because once it gets melted, then it gets melted into the rest of the collective material, right? Did you
How do they
also
even know that in terms of the people that are like recycling that plastic? How do they know the plastics they're using for that, or with like were out less than a year? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do
I
they,
would,
or they have like a batch, and like you said, if they throw like a couple of those in there, it ruins it. How do they know
yeah,
which ones aren't ruined?
probably just practice, doing it over and over, and then testing, continuing to test as they do it,
Yeah,
and trying different things.
yeah, I
I
gotta have an expert on that and like on here.
yeah,
I gotta learn way more about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the way I found that out was when they did the 2018, or was it 2000? I think it was 18. It might have been 19. The ban of plastics that were being shipped to China. Did you hear about that?
I did not. Yeah. Fill me in.
Okay, so China was the largest importer of used plastics, period. And
Mhm.
they would take a good 30 to 40% of all of our plastic waste and of the UK and
Mhm.
from all over the world. And I think, I'm pretty sure it was 2018, the end of 2018, they signed a bill saying they're banning it. They're no longer collecting it from other countries because they were getting tired of how unorganized it was. So it would be too mixed, and it
Yeah.
cost them so much money to
Yeah. It wasn't
have
worth
them
it.
sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was also really dirty.
Mhm.
So like you would send them plastics that had been used in food processing, and it was, completely covered in it, and then you just shoved it in your trash and sent it off to go. Well, then it's very dirty, and then it costs them money to have to clean it. So it's like this number of steps that just keep adding on to why it becomes so expensive. And what was happening, and why you saw so much smog in China, was partially due to that, was because they couldn't do anything with majority of that plastic,
Mhm.
and they were just
Burn it
burning
off.
it. Yeah.
They just burned it.
And
Yeah.
then it became, well, now we're having too much smog. So what else can we do? Oh, fuck it. Let's just dump it in the rivers and into the
Mhm.
ocean. And that's what they were doing.
Mhm.
And their government finally stepped in and said, no, no more of this.
Yeah.
We're destroying ourselves.
Yeah.
So now majority of that collective actually goes to like places like Thailand and Vietnam, who are not equipped to do this. They
Mhm.
don't have the machinery, they don't have the facilities to do this.
Everyone from the
And
offload that one out.
a lot of times what they'll do, and I've seen it, is they'll take different plastics, they'll light it on fire and sniff it to be able to tell what it is if they're not sure. You know
Uh-huh.
how bad that is for,
Oh
they're
yeah.
killing themselves.
Wait, so are they paying to get these plastics, or are they taking it in because they're getting paid to, like, we're gonna give you our trash basically, and like we'll give you something for holding it? And China was,
I'm sure they have different deals that are probably both.
yeah,
So
yeah.
now where does all that go? So that's another reason that I wanted to be a part of this. Is the more I dig, the more I realize how big the problem is becoming, and it's getting worse because plastic people are, the producers of plastic are not backing down because they don't want to lose their income.
Yeah.
So they're actually talking about ramping up and producing more over the next few years, even though they see the statistics, even though that this is starting to become
Mhm.
obvious how
Mhm.
bad it's becoming and more people are talking about it, they're still wanting to make more.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah,
But
it's a little bit hard.
here's a really, really good piece of information for you. About 3 weeks to a month ago, I saw an article stating that Coca-Cola, the number one producer of plastic packaging in the world,
Mhm.
is now going to try and go plant-based,
Really?
to where it's biodegradable within a year.
That's awesome.
It's huge,
Yeah, that's super awesome. Go Coca-Cola.
right?
We'll
So
fund
I mean,
fund that.
that's so much hope right there.
Yeah, and even just them, yeah. First, yeah, the quickness of their timeline, and just that they're the biggest leader on that ship. So many people are going to jump on board just because they need to, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Well,
Well, they're
shit,
going to be forced
we're
to.
going to look bad." Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're right, and everyone's going to know if they do it, that it's possible. So like you got like they'll clamp down, they'll be like, you have to comply with this. We know it's possible. You can't just, yeah. That's
Exactly.
awesome. Yeah, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah. It's good. I talked to a lot of people within the industry, and I actually got a hold of a guy named Mike Beidel, and he had created like a whole new way, one of the first to create a new way of recycling the plastics, and to make it a little more cost effective. But
Mm.
he ended up selling, and now he's into several other ventures. So I'm really, it's awesome to be able to start becoming friends with these people
It's
and
an awesome
seeing.
community.
Yeah,
Like my mind right away jumps to like tech that needs to be at least a short-term answer, just because maybe there's like long-term solutions in terms of, like really changing society to really care about these things and changing legislation to be really specific about what you can do.
or
That
just you changing the
that's
material.
going to be a long time, like in terms of getting people to do something like that and valuing it enough where they would put that much work into it.
Well, yeah, they've become complacent in the
Yeah,
ease of
or
use.
companies to stop using it in general is going to take a hell of a long time. So the
That's the word.
short
Yes.
term, in terms of like even just decades, is all going to be, it's got to be driven by technology. So it gets me just thinking about all that stuff. So like one of the things I wrote down on my thing was like, what ways can AI be used in like recycling? Like one of the biggest lenses for me that I like to look through problems through, just because one of the things I'm most interested in, and it's one of the newer ways, but it shouldn't be applied to everything. But yeah, like neural networks, AI, like teaching machines how to do stuff, like really, the ways that can really be. And I actually heard a podcaster really recently. I like that he was coming at that. Like he works with AI,
Okay.
and he's they're one of the companies trying to solve like self-driving cars. On that guy Lex Friedman's podcast, but he. Um, George Hotz, that's his name. Anyway,
Okay.
he was saying, he's like, I don't like when people come up to me, they're just like random companies, and they're just like trying to stick, like they're just using it as the completely novel thing. Like, it's just like a hot dog creator guy. It's a hot dog company, and they're like, how do we use AI here? And he's like, why are you at? That's not the way you should be asking that problem. If you have an actual problem to solve and you want to think if maybe there's a way you can use AI, that's okay to ask me that. But just
Yeah.
saying like, how do we add AI to this? That's not how anybody should go about any kind of problem solving. But
Yes.
either way, I think it could be, just because there's so much, the process is so entangled. I feel like there's got to be a role in recycling in terms of either sorting it or I don't know. But that's something I literally scratched out. Just that there's
That I
so
think
much things that can be created that'll. I think I have high hopes for it. I think more and more people are really being woken up to it, like me and you, and just about how so much more focus needs to go in these areas. So many more companies, so many more, the value system, which kind of you're attacking that in. Like you can make things that people want out of these recycled goods. You can make art, you can make jewelry, you can make like just things that like are desired out of all of this that we previously perceived as not being desirable, and we have so much of, and so many
right.
entrepreneurs, teachers, creators. Yeah,
Hmm.
I have hope for it, but yeah, it's wild.
Well, I think a lot of what you said is very short term, and it's needed, but it's like it's hard to get someone to actually invest their money into doing something that is
Exactly.
short term or may not get a good return off of, and that's the biggest problem, is because of greed. And not only that, but like the long term is like reducing the amount of plastic used for anything, period, is
Yeah.
what should
Hopefully
be
ending it.
the
Yeah.
focus. And doing that is looking at what other materials can be used. And that's another reason I'm doing what I'm doing, is to show, you know, you can take and think of any material that can become anything else. So
Mhm.
any object could become something else with a little creativity. And
Mhm.
that's my whole concept for my thesis show, is talking about that sort of thing, in a sense that we have the answers to a lot of it already, but because of oil, there's too much money and too much power in it.
Mhm.
They're not willing to allow that grasp of that to allow change to happen.
Mhm.
And the number one thing is hemp. It's proven to, they have well over like 1,200 products that they could potentially make with hemp.
Yeah, that's a
And
huge
how
thing.
many of those are plastic that they could be, replacing?
Hmm.
So we have the answer right there, but
Yeah.
they're making it so difficult to even. My cousin is a farmer, and he's looked into trying to grow hemp in Kansas,
Hmm.
and they've made it through legislation and through whoever's in charge of like the seeds,
Hmm.
making it as difficult as possible for them to want to grow it.
Hmm.
So nobody wants to grow it because they can't afford to do it, because then it's not effective for the grower, when
Yeah.
technically it should be one of the most freaking best selling
Yeah, it
product.
should be like hella subsidized. The fact that it's super versatile. You can use it from like plastics to like apparently it's great for clothes. It's like one of the
Yep.
strongest fibers. There's like so many of these things that it's blocked purely off of like stigma.
Yep.
Like the secondary supplement of like marijuana, which even I'm glad that part's at least changing. So hopefully
Yeah.
the hemp thing can change, because that part was just stupid. The
Yes.
fact that like even if marijuana was still hated and still super illegal everywhere, like the fact that you can't use the other part of the plant is ridiculous when
Yeah.
it's so just like beneficial for all these things.
It's ignorance. That's all it
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
It's the same thing with plastics. Honestly, it has a stigma, but yet everybody wants to use it because of the ease of use that it has created within their lifestyle.
Mhm.
They don't realize what they're doing because they don't really think about it. When they think about it, then they're like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do? Because what alternative is there?
Yeah.
Because they're so used to living their life this particular way. What do you do?
Exactly. There has to be something like the thing that whatever to get them to change their mind, there has to be a significant like leap. It can't just be a tiny bit better. It can't just be equal. Like it really has to be like even more convenient, and that's a huge
Which is stupid.
like the planet. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's
And,
stupid.
and I think that with what you said a minute ago about the language being used,
Hmm.
that's one of the big things that I'm learning, after going to grad school, is how affected we are by our culture and by our language, and
Hmm.
in how we understand the world around us.
Hmm.
And I feel like we are talking about recycling in the wrong ways a lot of times.
Hmm.
And one of those examples is they always talk about, oh, we got to save the planet. We're killing the planet. No, we're not. This
Hmm.
planet has been through way worse than us. It is a self-correcting system. It
Hmm.
will survive. It will survive us,
Hmm.
and it will cleanse itself of us. In
Yeah.
fact, I have proof of this, and I use this in my lecture that I'm going to give. Uh, so they have a new uh, type of rock that I have found,
Hmm.
and they call it a plastiglomerate. Okay, and what has happened is the live volcanoes in Hawaii has pulled in plastic trash from the ocean and then developed it and melted it into igneous rock. So
Hmm.
now it's a whole new rock. So that is the earth unbiasedly reconsuming the oil product that we have created
Yeah.
into itself, creating a new paradigm,
Hmm.
right? So now it is plastic plus, or it is now the planet plus Earth, or God dang it, the Earth plus plastic,
Yeah.
basically,
What was that
right?
called again? Like what conglomerate?
Plastic glomerate.
Plastiglomerate?
No, plasti, no
Oh,
C,
plastic.
plastic glomerate.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And so I actually made a few pieces on my website you can see in, I think, my second or third semester,
Hmm.
kind of mimicking that sort of thing.
Hmm.
So it's not a fact that we're killing the planet, we're killing the environment. So in
Hmm.
other words, we're killing ourselves by continuing to be a throwaway culture,
Hmm.
not the earth, the
I
environment.
agree 100%. Yeah, the Earth is going to survive. Like
Yeah.
us as a species and countless other species, probably not. Yeah, but like
Yeah.
that's what we're hurting is us and any other current species. But
Yes, we are actually in a mass extinction right now,
oh yeah.
and that's
That's
something nobody talks about hardly.
yeah, that's a huge thing. The book I don't know if you might have heard of it. It's called Sapiens, that came out a few years ago.
Mhm.
Like
I haven't read it yet.
It's a super good book. And then he wrote like a follow-up that I haven't read, Homo Deus, that's like about like the future, and
Mhm.
Sapiens, like everything up till now, about like just like biology and like
Okay.
human culture, and kind of like the different stages of, creating fire, creating agriculture, or creating agriculture.
Mhm.
But yeah, and it's super wild and interesting. And he goes into all the different mass extinctions that happen just from like our species, and all the way it ties in.
Yeah. Did you know that this Earth used to be made with a certain plant that ended up killing itself off because it produced too much oxygen?
Really?
Yeah. And they just now found that plant again, and they're going to try and start to cultivate that plant.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a whole mass extinction from a species that came before us
Uh-huh.
that completely wiped out everything on the planet because it oversaturated it with oxygen.
That's so interesting. I never heard of that.
Yeah.
That's insane. That'd be very useful now. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another book that you might be interested in. It's called What's Next? Oh, dadgummit. Something eco. I can't remember it now. Oh,
If
you
you
just
remember later,
remind me, and I'll send it
but
to
yeah,
you.
I'll remind you. But I'll definitely
It,
include that. What's it
it,
about?
it's about the Anthropocene, and how we view what we're doing, and what needs to be done next to be able to get past looking at it and just looking at it. Like
In terms of
how we're making,
in terms
and
of
how
waste.
we're yeah, and just kind of what we as humans are doing, the Anthropocene, and it's I haven't really fully read the whole thing. I just
Mhm.
read some, and it was really really
That's
good.
interesting. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'll definitely message you to include that one in here.
and then what was it? New materialism is another area that I just started a couple weeks ago, and I just bought a book that I haven't even had time to start looking at. But
Mhm.
that's another thing, is the change from back in like the early 1900s with the materialists, and how they started critiquing what and how we look at materials. And then now we have a new materialism, and how we're starting to look at how we kind of screwed ourselves. And it's
Mhm.
really very interesting in how they even view it. It's strange. It's a newer theory, I guess, that's
Like
kind of
area, like
going.
thought. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
But yeah, that's awesome. I'll say it's good to be a little late here. Not really for me, but yeah, just so we can keep. I
No,
was,
I'm good.
yeah, I was gonna say I'm feeling good. Um, One thing I would love to, I was gonna say it earlier. I would love for all the stuff you're making, um, at least in the beginning while you're posting them. I would love to know how much like literal volume of trash, or like went into each piece. That'd be cool. Just like, no, because that's like
Yeah.
one thing you probably built up an intuitive sense of, how much goes into one of these things, like how much it takes
Mhm.
to condense down, and how much is essentially saved because you're reusing it. Um,
Right.
but yeah, being an outsider, I have no idea how much it takes to make that piece. It'd be cool getting a sense of like the choker piece, that has like all the like that, probably the amount that takes up is awesome. Probably like getting to see like the
Yeah.
juxtaposition of that would be cool. Uh,
Well, I'm actually right there with you on that, in the sense that I don't know the answer to that yet. I'm
yeah,
still learning. The bricks were already pre-made, so I
yeah. I was gonna
didn't
say those
do that
bricks you got a
process.
bunch from yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know the answer to that, and I will probably never know the answer to that, because A, they're shut down.
Yeah,
B, it's not my machine, so until I can afford to buy that machine to do that with,
yeah.
and yeah, so trying to get some people interested in maybe
Yeah, those are some cool numbers.
uh, to donate to me. That's one of the things I would want to do, is to buy that kind of machine. But the other machine, I'm right there with you, and that's something that I'm hoping to be able to do. I just, with the two times that I've actually ran the machine, I haven't been. I've made different things, so I can't really tell you, okay, this is how much went into this.
Mhm.
It's it's one of those things where I'm going to have to, once I get done with this semester and I have more time to put towards this and not towards my lecture, I'm
Mhm.
going to do that very thing. And I'm going to have like a trailer load. Okay. This
Yeah.
full trailer, this picture, this is how much freaking styrofoam I have. And
Mhm.
then do a bunch of those long strands and then say, this is all that came out of it.
Yeah.
Because I can't tell you one statistic, and that is that machine reduces it down from a 90-1 ratio.
Mhm.
So it goes from,
Yeah,
this
that's awesome to know.
styrofoam to like this much.
Yeah, that's wild. Like, yeah, that's like 1.5%. Yeah, that's so cool.
It's cool, but it's also hard to get a lot of material out of it.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, yeah, that too. But you won't run out. Yeah.
Well, no, not anytime soon. No. So that's actually my biggest issue at the moment. Now that the recycling center is closed down and they don't have those relationships with the other companies and people in town,
Mhm.
is finding that material. So once break hits, I'm going to go around and talk to like all the major companies in town and see what they do with their waste and
Mhm.
see if they would be interested in donating it to me for free, to where they don't have to worry about throwing it away or collecting it. All they got to do is put it in a bag and I'll come get it.
Yeah,
So
I'd love to even know
uh,
the systems of doing it. Yeah. One of my roommate here that is he's a fashion designer. He does friggin' insane stuff. I almost brought him up, or like some of the work he did when you showed the piece you're gonna wear when you present your thesis, like the necklace thing, because he does like he loves like otherworldly stuff, so he does like really cool pieces that would
uh-huh.
look like it would go with one of his things.
Yes.
Um, yeah, we first actually randomly met like last year working at a Banana Republic, and yeah, yeah, super random. And he's like, yeah,
Yeah.
like, one of the most important people I've ever met, super close
Nice.
friend and just, yeah, great. Um, but it's probably, I barely knew him like a few weeks in, and at Banana, there's like 2 days a week where they have like shipment coming in. Like those days you come in mornings and you like unbag all the clothes and you literally, you're all like standing around a table and someone is like dumping like the boxes of like the packaged clothes. Each like item is packaged separately in like coating and like in like a plastic bag. Uh,
Yep.
you take it out, you fold it, you put it in a stack, and you take just like the plastic and throw it in like a trash bag. And there's like, depending on the size of the shipment, but like bags stuffed full of plastic bags like this big, that
Yep.
we get rid of. And it was cool. One of the, because I knew he was an artist separately. I didn't know, like, not the word good, but like how like committed he was to it, like how like long he's been an artist, like how much stuff he
Gotcha.
does. But he like grabbed those bags one day. He's like, I'm gonna make some out of these. And like at a couple weeks later, he made this like awesome jellyfish like sculpture thing that actually just took pictures recently of it on the beach. Like it looked like a washed up giant jellyfish. Uh,
Nice.
but yeah, I loved how he did all these different materials. I don't remember where I was going with this, but yeah, just the yeah, thinking back to all the trash just Banana produced and any other companies,
And
not
that's just one location.
yeah, not me throwing them under the bus. Yeah, but yeah, just there's so much more to be looked into there. Yeah, I really never thought about the transparency of the whole thing until mentioning it like an hour ago when we were talking. Like
Yep.
that's one of the things that really just the issue in just like in the issue of sustainability that just bugs me. They
Yep.
like no one knows like you talk at least me, like you talk about it with friends all the time, like I don't really know where recycling goes, I don't really know where to take it, I don't know how much was recycled. Why does no one know? That's like, it should be a way bigger issue. I don't know, like that's
Because
wild.
they don't see it affecting them.
Yeah,
That's why.
exactly. It's not.
It's not like directly affecting them, even though it is in the long run.
Yeah,
But this is not what our culture has become, instant gratification type of
yeah,
place. So the fact that it's not having that kind of effect on them immediately,
yeah,
then
you do
it's
not
out of
evolve
that mind.
directly have to solve that problem or worry about that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
unfortunately. I mean, and I understand that. Like like everyone's doing their like daily things. They have their own goals. They have their own. I'm not blaming anybody for it, but it's definitely. I think it's the people that do choose to be fighting that fight and be in that industry and like care about sustainability. I think that's like one of the major avenues that like just the fronts that's not attacked, is
Yeah.
getting that transparency there. I feel like that's a crucial spot that's not being worked on. There's plenty of
Yeah.
people trying to make super other important parts of it, like
Right.
things that would clean up, things that would recycle.
Right.
But
Mhm.
getting that information to the people, I think, is an equally
Well,
important leg of the, process.
not only that, but to take that a step further with the problem, one of the biggest issues we have right now is the media and facts and
Yeah,
getting
yeah, exactly.
correct facts that are
It's true.
gonna, yeah, right, like something that's actually true to the people so they
Mhm.
can see it for themselves and they can understand it. How do you trust anything you read or see on the news? Like I don't watch the news anymore because I
Yeah.
know, depending on which, they're always spinning it to their own good. So
Yeah,
in that
anybody
sense,
can find
you
something to
look
point
at,
to that proves them right.
right, and you look at, you're talking about wanting to make some of these changes happen. Well, the problem is the people that don't want that change to happen feed them the wrong information, or
Yeah.
they pay them off or do whatever, and then that is disinformation, and then we don't really know how bad it is,
Yeah.
or the facts to all of this. So that's a whole nother layer to the issue that we're in this information age.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and it could be, yeah. That is an important, yeah, that's a really important thing to know, that it might not just be like in that industry that data isn't found like throughout. It's just that it's buried. It's so
Yep.
well because of how not touchy. There's a better word than touchy, but how many big industries it can affect, that how
Mhm.
likely it is to be buried and fought against.
Yep. So here was one stat that kind of ties to what you were talking about earlier with your roommate, that ties to what we're talking about now. I read this article and it makes sense. And then later on, I read another article that come out that completely discredits or tries to discredit what they're saying.
Mhm.
And that, what do you think is the number two outside of plastic polluter that we throw away on a regular basis in our
I don't know,
landfills?
bricks. Yeah, I guess we're not throwing
Clothing.
this away. Yeah, what is it?
Clothing.
Clothing. Oh yeah, so that
Because
makes
what does
sense.
everybody do if they don't donate it? They throw it away.
Yeah,
And do very many people donate? No.
yeah, and half of
So
it is plastic now.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. They must be like, including me. I don't really view clothes as plastic, but in
But
the
it's in there.
yeah, or just like even like the result of like the things we don't like about plastic sitting around in terms of like in the world. Same for that clothing item, you
Yeah.
know,
And how
because
you value it.
yeah, that's a huge one I never thought about at all.
People don't realize how they value things. Like there's so much that we take advantage of on a
Mm.
daily basis, not just in home goods, but the shoes you wear, the sunglasses you wear,
Mhm.
all of that. It adds up.
Yeah, it super adds up. It always bothers me. Like a good amount of people, and I'm happy in my life, that really care about obviously sustainability, but also like zero waste. That's something I'm like. Sometimes I think I'm just
It's
like
not
thinking
possible.
about things to do in sustainability too much, but I'm not as good at like putting into action and doing zero waste kind of things. Uh,
Well,
but I'm happy I have people around me that really are really focused on zero waste. That really
yeah.
think about it, that really look like follow a lot about it, try to learn to do it better all the time. Um, just thinking about how many like bags of trash a person produces all the time is wild. I always hate it. I'm like, how is
What,
my just like food packaging going to this stage all the time?
what about this? You always collect your trash to be taken somewhere to be thrown away, right? What do you put it in? Plastic bag.
Yeah, you just put it in more plastic. Yeah.
It's like, what the seriously?
Yeah.
and
It's an endless loop. Yeah, it's a really big.
and zero waste is a really great thing to think about, and it's an ideal, but I don't think it's possible.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think zero waste is possible. Or like, I think the. I don't want to say it's not possible again. I like to definitely believe that it would be someday, but more so that all the things that are waste now would be things that we can make biodegradable, so you can use them the way
So
you now.
just like I was saying earlier with language,
Hmm.
I think is where I disconnect with what you're saying.
Oh yeah,
Because what is waste, right?
that's true. Yeah.
And so the way you're putting it, it seems more like things that are harmful.
Things
That
that we won't, yeah, I guess, yeah, again, it always comes down to the language and the wording and what it means. Like
because just to live,
yeah, we're not,
just
yeah,
to live,
everything has to produce waste byproducts. Yeah. So for me,
we
I
have
guess
to
it's,
consume something to eat to be able to
yeah,
live.
yeah. So
So something has to die for us to live.
yeah. And I guess what I'm picturing in my head when I use the word waste is something that would go unused that the environment does not break down naturally and then quickly, I guess you'd have to put in that too.
Right.
But that's like the category that I'm placing on it.
Okay.
So if we can get to a place one day where at least the things that we're just tossing aside to not be used,
Mm-hmm.
if all those things broke down quickly enough naturally, that'd be a win in my book. Because then everyone has the ease of use. You don't need to feel, you don't need to like worry about it in terms of like negative effects or like you taking time out of your life. But yeah, it's not hurting.
Right.
That'd be one win,
Yeah.
Yeah, that still has, yeah.
Well,
I don't know how that happened though. There's nothing that would break down that quickly. And there's nothing that would ever break down faster than the rate of creation, So we're still,
and still do the job that we wanted to
population
do.
keep going. Even if it takes 2 days to break down, and one day the world creates so much of it,
Yeah.
So it's like the rate, while it'd be way better than it is now, if all those plastics broke down in 2 days, it would still eventually get to this point where like, oh crap, like we have islands of this stuff in the water.
Well, it depends. It depends
Oh,
on what it degrades down to. Because if it's something that can be, biodegradable,
mm-hmm.
then that is something that can be used in mulch and in soils that can then go back into being
That's
used
true.
in farming, in all these different things. So technically, it would be a building source for the earth itself, to where you could actually build land with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
So
true. Or yeah, if there's a system where, yeah, even I haven't looked into them enough, but I know there's obviously companies out there going from like recycling things into building materials. Like I mentioned, for buildings, one of the biggest wastes is that. So they're like creating, like sustainable bricks, sustainable, um, all of that. That's another way it could literally build future things.
but see, that and there is part of the problem with a lot of the product. Like let's say you just said bricks. It's got to be able to perform a job,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's got to perform for a lot of these things for centuries.
Hmm.
How do you make something that biodegrades but also lasts a century?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if that's possible.
Right. Yeah.
So it's going to be something to where we have to shift our thinking
Yeah.
and how we view our, like, let's say one of our domiciles.
Hmm.
How do we view it? Is this something we're going to live in? Like, my grandparents lived in it their entire lives.
Hmm.
Or is it something that can be lived in for a certain amount of time, destroyed and recycled, and then you move on to
That's
a
a
new
cool.
thing?
Yeah, that's a really cool. You don't even think of the option of that.
Yes.
That's a really cool, like thinking of a potential like universe where that was the model. Like
Yeah. And it would keep the
get
things
this thing
fresher.
built the last 5 years, then they like can like recycle it for you and you get a new one that like stands up and is used for the same thing. Um,
Yep.
yeah, a less temporary model of buildings. That's cool.
Here's another thing that you can think of that I learned through one of the classes I took. And do you know where the worst air is that we breathe?
Nope.
Indoors,
Really?
inside. Yeah, it's like 90% worse than outside.
There's
Or
always.
it's high up there, but where do you we spend 80 to 90% of our time inside.
Hmm. and just the fact that it is automatically significantly worse than moving air. Yeah. Yeah. Like circulating air.
So we continue to harm ourselves
Yeah. Just
without even.
cycling your air. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I never think about that at all.
Okay.
That's wild.
So here's something that I equated with my research. We have to take a theories class to get our MFAs, and it was one of the toughest classes I've ever taken, but it was also one of the most worth taking. And one of the things that we learned about was animism. Have you heard of animism?
I have heard of it, but I don't remember what it was. Is it just,
Well,
yeah.
it's there's a lot of different layers to it, but it's like belief in otherworldly things or supernatural things or things of that nature. Gods, like you look at the past cultures who believed, in supernatural things of the planet itself. There's Gaia is one of those things. The Ainu in Japan believe everything is sacred. All those kinds of things. Um, in my view, one of the biggest issues, especially in the West, is we have lost touch with animism, with being in touch with what we call nature, which is just a construct in itself. But what is nature? What is natural and what is unnatural?
Yeah. I have
What is good and what is bad? Anyways, so I feel like a lot of the issue that we have with spending 80 to 90% of our time indoors is we've gotten away from what we're doing to the earth. And that is the biggest disconnect and the goal for me is to get people to understand that. And with it, changing the way our society thinks and views those very things is what's going to change them and make them want to change recycling on a greater scale. Because until they actually see, like we said a minute ago, the effect of what they're actually doing by being a throwaway culture and buying all this shit and just throwing it away, until they see that, because they don't see that effect directly for themselves, they have to see the full picture because they're so blindsided by it.
Yeah.
So until they start seeing that connection to nature, as we put it,
yeah,
then nothing's ever going to change.
Yeah, there's no way to rebuild that like value structure or build that value structure without the component, without exposing them to that part of the puzzle. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the key.
Yeah, I don't get how, that's like a big thing. I can't wait until, it can't be too long from now, but it's until something about sustainability is like a must class or like a must part of education.
Yes.
Just, and not even in terms of sustainability in the sense we're talking about, in terms of like literal like waste and like recycling and but just sustainable methods of just construction of a company, of just long-term thinking, of thinking about the end of something before you start it, just of teaching that kind of thinking. I don't understand
coming at it from a creative mind.
It's not already a must. Yeah. And
Yes.
I can't wait till it's a thing.
I agree. Totally.
Yeah. Other than how awesome your shit is and how just like that's the part that I think that gives me the most hope too, of what you're doing in terms of like literally buying that machine and like getting it to become part of like the facilities at your university.
It's fine. It's coming with me.
Well, yeah, that's something that to me, that's like a trailblazing thing. I feel like in the next like 20 years, most art departments at all schools will have a system like that. So people can like, that'll be a field of art, is like, I don't know if you call it sustainable art, but like where you're recycling and reusing things and creating materials out of old materials. So it's cool to me. That really is a trailblazing thing that you're even like in the art community, that you'd be able to help initiate that throughout colleges everywhere, just as like studying, like teaching people how to study different materials and how to play with them and how to figure them out, how to literally create that, like that department looks different than another one. Like someone knows how to set up a wood shop somewhere, like all the tools that are needed, all the like the space, the way things should be, the things they need to learn, like the progression of it. And you'll know that for all of this and be able to help set that up. Like thinking about,
I plan to do that for myself, actually. That's part of the business that I want to create.
I feel like,
yeah,
just like your values super aligned with that. And that is just, hand in hand with just being an artist later on. The fact that you be part of that process is amazing, because I think that's something that fully needs to be there. I mean, it even extends out of art, like having those machines, like literally just the value of having those machines in all these college or all these like learning environments. It helps for art. It can help for engineering. It helps for all these, that needs to be there. Like that's just so badass to me that you bought that machine and had it installed there.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I plan on going further and creating the plastic machines that I told you about from Precious Plastics. I want to talk with some engineers and see how we can make it even more efficient and better. Because that was actually one of the assignments in the engineering department here last year, to where they had to take that platform from that website, and then how could they make it better, and then they had to build it. So it took like a whole year. I haven't gotten to see the end results, but
that's for the grad students.
I don't know if it was grad students or not. It may have been just one of the engineering classes.
That's awesome.
I don't remember, but that is something I want to go, and then I want to take all of this to a higher level, and eventually I want to start producing these types of machines at a smaller scale, so then the everyday person could then get their hands on it.
Yeah, you're right. That's a huge thing. I like that entrepreneurial mindset too. Like that's like, like the personal computer, or like we're really literally the same path of the personal 3D printer, same model. You're basically like, you can even make a machine that lets them make their own 3D printer fuel if you want to really work into that market. But yeah, like just, yeah, because it's kind of similar. Yeah.
I've actually looked into that, and it's actually really hard, and it's extremely difficult to make it to where that filament is so uniform.
Yeah.
And they have specialty machines. So if I could figure that out, then yes.
Yeah, there's so much there though, because you can just allowing any artist without these facilities or without the resources to like go to like a university to be able to play around with that medium. That's a huge thing. That'd be so awesome.
Exactly, because then it can push things a lot further and get that research going that isn't happening in I don't know if there's any universities that have research going on with the use of plastics from a creative side of things. They might be doing stuff within like the chemistry or those kinds of areas, trying to figure out how to attack this problem, but I don't see them using them in other ways like I am. Like how do you create something with that material in a new way?
Yeah, and it really underpins that value. Like making that something that's more in the forefront of more people's minds, or just like much more spread out in like the artistic community, but throughout. Yeah, that'll just add to that value actually becoming part of society, of just the act of reuse and like creating out of those materials.
Right.
It's so cool. Definitely wild, hopeful.
Yes, it is. It's huge. And I just thought of something else that kind of takes me back to something we were talking about earlier, in like hopeful and some of these companies that are trying to push things, small steps, right? I'm pretty sure it was in Indiana, but there's a company that makes diesel fuel now out of plastics, anything. Like they just take it all, they melt it down, and they've been able to synthesize diesel out of it. Now, some would argue, yes, it's still diesel, it's still being burned, and it's bad for the environment, but it's still better than the answers we have now of throwing it away.
Exactly.
So I thought that was, there's a lot of small hope here and there. They have mushrooms now that eat plastics. And then they also have
like bacteria and stuff that can, break.
And then they have mealworms they have found can eat plastics. And it's really interesting that with those, they're not actually getting any sustenance out of the plastic. But what they're doing is, because of the bacteria that's in their guts, they're capable of getting energy from the breakdown of the plastic through that bacteria.
Mhm.
So they can continue to live even though they're not getting any sustenance from it, which is really freaking weird.
Yeah.
And now what they're doing in Japan is they're trying to isolate that and another type of enzyme or bacteria or whatever that help break these things down, and they're trying to put them together, and it's actually breaking it down like 6 times faster than anything that's ever been produced.
Mhm.
So their hope is to create plants that like physical plants that have these huge vats of this bacteria in it, like a liquid that they could throw the plastic in, and it will dissolve it
Mhm.
faster than anything ever has.
Yeah.
And they're like right on the verge of that right now. Now, my question was, okay, well, what's the byproduct? Because
Yeah.
you've got
So
to
it's
have a byproduct.
dissolved into something, some precipitate, or like, where does that
It
go? What is it?
back to plastic, to original, to what they could use to actually
More
reuse
plastic.
plastic.
Yeah.
So then it becomes an infinite recycler loop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a little, again, a little better in terms of, yeah, you really run into that problem of it's a big factor better than what we have now, but it doesn't, like the trajectory of that creation is not in line with the values you want to instill. You
Right.
know, like it's super
Exactly.
useful. Yeah, it gets us better, but it doesn't get us, it doesn't also have the effect, and you need both, of getting closer to this value where everything, yeah, where everyone understands.
We don't need plastics. We don't
Yeah.
need it.
Yeah.
We can live without them. We
Hmm.
used to
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
before they created that stuff. It's you know another really interesting fun tie that I have found through my research is, if you look at technically uh, what the definition of plastic is and how it's made.
Yeah, I was about to
It's
ask when they were created, like when the first plastic. Yeah.
well, it depends on how you look at it, and that's
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
Is the way it's made is through these long strands of polymers that combine to make it stretchy, and that can be heated and then set in place, and then that's what allows it to be flexible but keep its shape, right? Well, if you look at some of the natural things in this world, like wood
Mhm.
and other resins that they actually used to make in the Olmec. They used to make down in Central America, South America. They used to make their balls that they played their kind of soccer-like game out of that material,
Mhm.
and it's technically plastic.
Mhm. That's interesting.
So talk about getting away from our connection to
Yeah, I'd love a
liquid.
book just about the history of plastic, really. That'd be an interesting ass book.
Yeah,
You gotta find me
yeah.
one of those.
Because you got Bakelite, you got other things before that. Um, there's all kinds of stuff. It's crazy.
It is crazy. It's so, yeah.
But that connection to me was what really interests me, is how interested I have become in plastic and how interested I've always been in wood. And
Yeah.
technically, by definition, they are the same.
Yeah. That's kind of wild.
Big time. I love it.
No, yeah, I didn't expect yeah, my mind's been blown a handful of times throughout this. Like there's like, damn, I want to spend so much time thinking about this new thing that I didn't think about before. When you have
Good.
those moments, you're like, I just want to sit there for hours thinking about that topic. And I have a,
Welcome to the last 2.5 years of my life in
yeah,
grad.
exactly. I have a bunch more of those topics now. And I know that each one of them will feed into like 100 other ones.
Yep.
Yeah, I love
Yep.
those topics.
It's huge. It's a huge topic. So
Mhm.
I'm excited to see where this heads, because there's so many different ways I can go with it and so many things I want to make. And uh,
No, there's endless stuff. Yeah.
I think the first question I'm going to have to ask myself when I get out of here is why I'm going to make a certain thing, and is it worth me making?
Yeah.
So there's going to be a juxtaposition of what am I actually creating in the long term,
Mhm.
and then what
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, which is
Does
more
it have
important.
the trajectory of those values? Like, is it gonna help me build those values in me and then everyone I'm showing my art to? Um, yeah, just getting a real mental model of those questions to ask yourself. I always love thinking about that.
Yeah,
Just kind of the
got to
really
map
starting to
out.
understand, really starting to understand the way you test all your ideas and make your decisions.
If you like that, you definitely got to check out Brett Bloom then, because he also writes a book about mind mapping
Oh, okay.
and he makes these huge maps, and that's his thing. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely check out Brett Bloom. His is subjectivity, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'll check out his books. I
that's
probably
good.
do unfortunately have to get going here in a sec, but
Yeah, I probably should eat dinner. Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that too. But I've honestly had a fucking incredible time. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's blown my mind, and yeah, I'm wild happy that you kind of stumbled upon all this stuff, and it really
Right?
seemed like such a perfect fit. I'm happy there's someone like you out there doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. There's so much purpose in it too. Like you said, there's just all the aspects of it seem to spread to making you want to learn more about it and do more about it.
Good. Yes. Wonderful. Well, I do have one thing I want to ask of you, and
For
if
sure.
I can get a copy of this podcast, so
Oh
that
yeah,
I can go back through, and I probably may have said some things that I want to think over again, and
for
that sort
sure.
of.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll send this to you. I'll get a cut in the next couple of days, um, and I'll send it over to you for review too, and then we can get either with your sign off. If there's nothing you want me to change, or if there is, we can. Obviously, this will be cut now. We'll end it like a second ago.
Yeah,
Uh,
if you could like send the whole thing to me just
okay.
as is, just
Yeah.
raw, and then that way I have both.
Yeah, I'll send it
Yeah,
to you now. Yeah, I can send it to you either tonight or tomorrow morning. It takes a little bit to like convert the
yeah, no
Zoom
problem.
file, but I'll send you the raw one.
Okay.
Uh, and yeah, I'll email you too, or I'll just text you because it's easier, honestly, for some of these, just so I make sure I get like the resources to put in the show notes and stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
there's a bunch of cool stuff we mentioned that I for sure want to put in there.
And
Uh,
I'm sure I have others that I didn't mention that I have some other
yeah,
good books for you and
yeah,
whatnot.
these books or these like artists or some of these just like even like articles. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
had those saved.
as many of that stuff. And then also shoot me a text. I'll remind you too. But the websites you want me to put up for you, like, so your art websites you want people to go to, any social media accounts, and any for like the school too, or like if there's anything you want to draw there. But I'll,
Uh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
trouble's gonna be, I need to find out how to make this an audio episode. There's so many, there's so much cool stuff that they need to see kind of, but I'll just post it, if they want to see, they'll go on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. I'll just type these in real fast, and then I can send them to you again.
Yeah.
So those are my two websites.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
But yeah, I can definitely yeah, just put all that in email, and I
Yeah.
can definitely do all that to you.
Yeah. I'll email you probably tomorrow morning. Yeah, let me copy these on my clipboard. But yeah, I definitely want to have you on again in terms of like in a few months, getting updated work and seeing kind of what you hear from those companies too, about like what they're doing. It's so wild. Like I wonder, somebody in the town's got to be worried about the fact that their recycling plant is closed. Like even just on that
Yeah.
story, that's wild. I never, yeah,
There's the guy that I'm getting my styrofoam now has a real small business called Good Earth Recycling, and his name's Nick, real nice guy. But he's also just the go between, like
yeah,
the collect it from the neighborhoods. They put it out in trash bags, and he goes and they go around and they pick them up.
yeah,
I don't know where they go from there.
yeah.
So
Kind of with Greg when he, because obviously he works with like blockchains and Ethereum. There was, I, while like, I was trying to make this one system with like basically like a recycling based system with like blockchain. So there's like a coins that people get minted from like returning plastic. So there's be more incentive of, because that thing can pick up value in a few ways, either from us like kind of buying it from the people bringing it in, or if it just like earns like social value or something. But just like some kind of system where you get like minted coins for bringing in, you know, like, oh, you brought in 2 pounds of bottles, like you get like like 0.1 of recycle coin, whatever, you know, whatever. Like that system. And I was mapping it out in a lot of like detail, and the biggest reason it wouldn't have been able to make the first hurdle. And I still think there's something there. You know, I still think there's like something there, and that kind of incentivizing because like the world is getting more and more interested in blockchain. And when that becomes more accessible in terms of like, because right now it's still kind of hard to have like, you know, like the wallet you use to get like Cash App lets you buy Bitcoin and stuff. But other than that, like there's no like easy to access little like app that can hold, and safe app that can hold like if you have like weirder coins. Anyway, when that's a thing, like I think it's still a viable idea. But the problem I was running into is, like you said, the value of all those things being collected, we wouldn't really be able to like pay anybody for bringing those in, you know? So there wouldn't be,
not unless we had a recycling
you
center.
wouldn't really be reaching a bigger group than the people that were just like, oh, this is a novel idea. I'm gonna go get this, or like earn this little badge on my phone for collecting these things. Like, yeah, you'll capture some people, and it's still like it's still a cool thing.
Mostly nerds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, like the bummer thing was, yeah, the current little value on recycled materials in terms of what you can use them for, and just, yeah, there's no one you can sell them to if you're the collectors, not even the processors. And I was looking into like the different company, like what percent of, I was just going down rabbit holes on these websites about like different recycled values of like a ton of this kind of plastic, like PET plastics, or a ton of like copper from cell phones, you know. And few of the companies do the processing themselves. So I was like, okay, if we're going to be the go-between, you know, I was looking into that stuff a bunch like 5 months ago or something. But yeah, so it's wild. It made me think about a bunch of that stuff when we were talking.
That's what makes it so cost ineffective, is because of that very thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you know, and then you also got to look at the other side of things. You're talking about like a minted coin. That's going to cost you money. So unless you're getting
so it's like a crypto coin. So it'll be like a thing that pops up on your phone. Yeah. So it'll be like kind of like a badge from a game, is like the way.
Gotcha. Okay.
Any of those like blockchain coins will work, but
virtual. It's all virtual.
They can earn value in terms of like the system I was going to have is, you know, you can partner with a bunch of corporations. They're like, hey, if you collected this amount of coins from clearly the fact that you recycled, you know, like we're Smoothie King, we'll give you 10% off for 10 of these coins. You know, like we just value people that go out and recycle. So it was kind of like that system, which I still think is viable. But yeah, because you can give it value that way. But it's just hard to get people to, you know, really collect like, you know, a good bit of bottles to get one of these coins. You need 10 coins to get 10% off a smoothie. Like you're probably not going to do it after a week.
Getting the businesses to think outside the cube space as well.
Exactly. To convince anybody to do it. Yeah. And then just, it wouldn't hold people for a long time. It was the problem. Like if I convince like this many people to try it and like do it for like a week and earn enough to get that discount, maybe I'm not going to go collect these things for an hour a week to get a discount.
What you need to do then is get somebody big that's thinking that already, and who just proved it. Who was it that just proved that they think this way?
Coke, right?
There you go.
Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, we know they'd be on board for that. We know they'd be on board. Because they could be like, hey,
someone that big.
That really is cool to think about. That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go back and revisit. I can remap that idea. But I mean, because they could even do it in a perspective, like it'd be a good marketing style thing for them, because they could be like, starting next year, we are 100% biodegradable, and if you want to get rid of all our old trash, like get in this program, you know. So they can like use that to, just in terms of the story they're telling with Coca-Cola, their image. Like we're not only switching to this, we also have a plan in place to get rid of all our old trash.
Exactly.
You know? That's really cool, actually. So maybe
and then they get an incentive to get something new out of it as well.
Yeah.
So they're doing double duty at the same time. They're helping to get rid of old trash, but then they're also getting a new product at the same time. So they're getting a lot out of what doing the going through the effort to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe that idea is definitely worth revisiting.
I think it
I think it
is.
definitely is in the coming years. Yeah, I think
Yep.
that's just like the time for that will come. I don't think it was a bad idea.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna keep thinking about that. That's good.
Yeah, and then we have, if Biden does 100% win this thing,
Mm-hmm.
he's supposedly, wanting to be more for the environment. So that could change a lot of things too, pretty
That's
quickly.
true. Yeah, we don't know where things are headed. Hopefully in a good direction.
I hope so. That's
Yeah,
all I can hope for.
exactly. Yeah, I definitely have a lot of hope. I definitely believe in just even how much one person can do when they're putting their mind to it, like either of us or anybody out there. There's
Right.
definitely amazing people out there
Yep. Big time.
for sure.
So, oh yeah.
But yeah, it was freaking awesome meeting you, Rick. I'm super glad Greg randomly hit me up.
Hell
Uh,
yeah.